More ready than ever.
Is that better?
Yeah, you're good. And we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, to today's episode of the Lost Boys, where we are going to cover the topic of the Sigma male. What is a Sigma male and how to become one? First, we can start off by going around the horn. Guys, what's your basic definition of a Sigma male? And I was mentioned on the pre-show that I'm actually not too familiar with this term. I know it's thrown around the space a lot, but by the time these terms started coming out, I'd kind of evolved past these types of terms. Like when you start off, it's like, am I alpha, am I beta, am I simp, am I red pill, am I blue pill, whatever. You get to a point where you grow past that and you really don't care. Just like, I'm just living and loving life and it seems to be going well. So, take that as you may. That's kind of my attitude now. So I'm going to look at this from kind of an outside perspective and then opine. But Steve, go ahead and introduce yourself. And what do you think a Sigma male means so we can dive into it?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
on the spot.
I hope everybody knows who I am, right? I don't think that there's a direct definition. What I was saying to you in the pre-show is I think that the Sigma male has similar characteristics as an alpha male, but they are just naturally introverted. So it's I wouldn't say they're one and the same necessarily, obviously, but the Sigma male is a quiet guy. The Sigma male is a guy who spends a lot of time alone. The Sigma male is a guy who doesn't have the social needs necessarily that an alpha male does. And I would say just to keep it simple for now, because we're going to go over a lot of stuff, it seems like in the next couple hours, that's probably basic. Just an introverted alpha male, a guy who can pretty much do things on his own and doesn't need any outside influence.
That's really kind of how I've understood it too. Jesse, would you agree with that assessment, or do you have anything else to add there?
Yeah.
Or disagree with?
But here's the thing, though. All human beings are basically social creatures, so we need some form of interaction, whether we like it or not, because think prisoners who are in solitary confinement, right? They go crazy. They're craving for any kind of social interaction. We saw the same thing during COVID with social distancing. So if a Sigma male truly can keep to themselves, how long can they really do it? Like, what is the extent that a Sigma male can really be basically an introvert, more of an introverted alpha male?
And you're frozen. Steve, you still with me? Or?
Yeah, I'm here.
Nice.
I don't think it was my internet, bud.
I don't think so either. He was saying my internet's screwing up. I'm like, dude, I've got like top of the class internet here.
We lost you for like a solid 30
sometimes
seconds
it does cut.
It was lagging.
Yeah, you're warping in and out of different dimensions there, bro. But yeah, basically to carry on from Jesse's point, if he's frozen, or do you have audio there?
Yeah, I can hear you guys perfectly fine. Just video's choppy.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see all right. Yeah, if you want to wrap up that point, then we can start diving into the topic here a bit more.
Yeah, but basically, I was just wondering about your guys' opinion. Can a Sigma male really be a lone wolf on his own? Because human beings are social creatures by nature. So, to what extent can they really be? Do they just have a small social circle? What kind of extent is basically their introversion?
And that's where a lot of guys
go
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. So, just because you're a lone wolf doesn't mean you don't socially interact ever, right? It's not like you're just hiding in a cave somewhere and you don't do shit. It's more, I would say, like for me specifically, because I do have Sigma male traits, purely Sigma male traits. I would say for me, it's like a 95-5, 90-10. If I'm 95% by myself anyways, doing work on my computer or
most guys or
whatever. Yeah. And I think that most guys that are kind of, that are really on their, I kind of hate this term too, but on their purpose, like they're on their grind. Yeah. I think you just kind of naturally gravitate. Yeah. You just naturally gravitate towards being alone a lot, which there's nothing wrong with that. Right. And but the Sigma is more somebody who sits back, watches a room, makes sure they understand all the dynamics and what's going on. They're very thoughtful in their interactions because they don't want, number one, they don't want to speak out of turn. And a lot of times they're socially cautious. They're just socially cautious. They don't want to let a lot of people in because they know that, they see the dark sides of the world. Like they also say that a Sigma male is in touch with more of the darker parts of their personalities, and not all Sigma males are actually
Dark triad.
good. Say that again.
Yeah, like
Like a
the
dark
dark triad
What'd you
triad,
say,
traits.
Jesse?
basically. Dark
Yeah.
triad, dark triad.
Yeah. So they're more like that. You know, they're actually, like, as crazy as it sounds, they're more likely to commit crimes. They can be like white collar crimes. They're more likely to do that because they can kind of dive into that part of themselves. Like, everybody has a part of it, right? Um, but that personality type, that pure personality type, they can actually sit back and, like, be kind of sociopathic about it in a way. Like, they can appear to be sociopathic and antisocial and even narcissistic, or whatever other label you want to put on it. It's a really, really interesting dichotomy, really.
And guys, if you do have
Right,
those
right.
traits, or if you're unaware of having those traits, make sure that you at least shed some light on them from time to time. Make sure they're there, make sure they're categorized correctly, make sure they're tucked away, make sure you can control them. Because I ask myself this question every now and then too. Like, I usually try to be Mr. Smooth Operator. I love life. I'm usually pretty optimistic, but every now and then you deal with a shithead, and those thoughts will come in your head like, all right, well, I know these. I have these darker sides of my personality. I know manipulation techniques. I could very easily get one over on this guy. And then usually you have to recognize that, take a step back and be like, no, this guy's just an idiot and I don't want to deal with idiots in my life. And then just exchange pleasantries, bid him farewell, and be on your merry little way. So be aware that that exists, because sometimes those parts of your personality are accessed under times of extreme stress or trauma. I can't speak today.
Right.
And it really surprises guys. A part of them comes online that they've never experienced before, and they don't know what to do in those situations. And a lot of guys can get in trouble with that.
Yeah. I mean, self-awareness is pretty much everything in this case. And
Yep.
not to say that you don't just have, like, you can be, and this is probably where a lot of guys get it wrong a lot, and including myself. I actually posted and had an Instagram post last night where I was sitting there kind of like trying to figure out what identity I kind of wanted to work towards, right? And you just kind of, like, it's not that you do it to
For your
fulfill,
Instagram
like,
account, right?
yeah,
For your
it's like an
branded account.
image
Yeah.
thing. Well, no, I was just talking about identity in general, right? Like, I was
Or like you as a person.
yeah, the post itself was, has anybody ever gone through a situation, or has anybody ever thought about their goals, wanting a multi-million-dollar home, supercars, and a butler, versus, like, buying a ranch out in the middle of nowhere and kind of being left alone. Like, you wrestle with identity from being, there's, like, the city boy country boy vibe, right? Like, you're kind of like, where am I going, what am
Oh,
I doing, right?
Cody, Jinx, hippies, and cowboys. That song describes me to a T. I love that song.
Yeah, I guess the pass through point is, I think that guys think they have to be one thing or the other. They think they have to portray some version of an image
You're
one way or the
dynamic.
other.
You can be a bit of everything, and that makes you uniquely
100%.
you.
Yeah, well, that's where this phenomenon we have of Instagram creators that all look the same. They're all the same 150 dudes or 200 dudes that have these pages that are all like, oh, Patek Philippe watch, Bugatti, mansion, condo, hot girl. Like, we're
None of
not
those
all
guys ever
into,
have
like,
any
all of
money,
that.
because I hang out with guys like that and I'd be like, hey man, let's plan a trip or let's do something, or I'm thinking about this project, and they never have any cash to bring to the table. So I've
Yeah.
always
It's
been
a
wary of those
facade.
guys.
It's a facade,
When I first
basically.
moved to when
They're
I first moved to
portraying
California,
this lifestyle, but it's not really theirs. They're just
yeah, when I
spending money, getting to debt just to portray this lifestyle for IG, when there's basically a short-term fraud. Basically, what you need to aim to be is basically a long-term king, where you can have all that stuff and still have more money in the bank and still be able to go on all these trips and basically not just spend money as soon as you get it. Basically,
Yeah. Finish up, Jaron.
Yeah, I noticed that when I first moved to California, that because I'm a country boy, I grew up just down the road from you. And when I started going out and
Yep.
experiencing the world by myself for the first time, without any of those narratives that my family put on me, my local society put on me, school, teachers, all that stuff, all these
Yeah.
external
Totally.
influences, it's me, myself, and I alone, and we're going out in the world. So I'm experiencing California for the first time. And I at first I was taken aback. I was like, wow, all these guys have BMWs and Porsches and imported cars and these big ass mansions and wives with fake tits and Botox lips. And then I lived there for a while, and you get to start to know these guys. You hang out with them on the boats, you get your social circles created, and you get to know these guys one on one. A lot of them are like barely hanging on, or
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
for 7-8 years. Well, you have access to data, and let's say that I'm a curious cat sometimes, and you take a look at this data and you're like, wow, these guys are all like insolvent, these guys don't have shit. Like, you look at the lifestyle, you look at the Instagram, but on paper, and I'm not rich by any means, but on paper, I have no debt, so I'm wealthier
Sure.
than most people technically. And then
Well, not just technically, that's what the reality of it
well,
is.
literally, yeah.
Yeah.
So once you realize that, you're like, all right, well, yeah, I could be doing better, but I couldn't imagine having millions of dollars of debt on my back. Now, of course, there's people that use debt for different reasons. I always get that corrected in the comments. So if you're in like real estate investing or things like that, or like if you're doing interesting business or corporate structures and you're leveraging debt to turn that into an asset, then that's a different thing. But I'm talking like personal, just general, basic person consumer debt. And you realize really quickly, like God, that shit carries you around. And I kind of fell into that California lifestyle for a little bit too, and then pulled the Band-Aid off quick, went the full minimalist route, and I'm not looking back. It's nice being cash heavy, and I've got. It's funny when you have cash, then they offer you credit. So I've got credit lines for anything I want to do, but I just don't use it, and it's weird. Like I'll have guys reach out to me like, hey man, I want to get the top 10% group. Can I finance it? Guys, if you're on the fence, actually, PayPal does have a PayPal credit option. Maybe I'll go through and do like a sample transaction, show you guys how to do it, because I have a lot of guys asking me about that. But for me personally, I'm like, God, I remember those days where like $1,000 was a lot of money, and I had to think about it and deliberate and move my budget around, or maybe give a thing up or two. But those days have been gone for me. I'm still relatively new to this new lifestyle, but like a year and a half, 2-3 years now, to where I've never had to worry. Like, hey, bro, do you want to go to Europe mid-June? Yeah, count me in, and just book my ticket and go. So it's a different lifestyle I live, and bringing it back full circle to the Sigma male type thing. We're just scratching the top of the surface here, but per the definition that we've started to lay out, I could see myself maybe falling into the that category. What say yous?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do. I haven't had a real job in a decade at least, and I've kind of
I still feel uncomfortable experiencing that.
Yeah, it took me probably
it.
6 months. I think it took me an official 6 months, and I still have moments where I'm like, man, but then I think about working for somebody else.
I've already recovered my corporate income for going on month 2 now, but each month I've actually come in a bit higher, so I should be cool with it. But I think it's still maybe that lack of uncertainty there. But that's because
it's a muscle.
I mean,
and I've been structured to fit the corporate structure, so it takes some time getting away from that.
There's a lot of power when you can live life on your own terms and no longer be submissive to a boss, and that can be, very attractive to women too. That you don't have to show up at a time, you don't have to, leave at a certain time. There's unlimited cap on how much money you can make, and basically, the sky's the limit. Basically, once you choose to become self-employed and work for yourself instead of working for someone else, because I mean, fundamentally, you want to be able to live life on your own terms as a man, whereas guys who spend years and years to put money into this 401k so that they can be financially free when they're like old. Like Grant Cardone talks about this all the time. I mean, people who just constantly trade their time on Earth for money just end up being old and not rich. When there's a lot you can accomplish actually at a young age if you really put your nose to the grindstone and work on this stuff.
Yeah, you're not wrong with that. I'm going to play the devil's advocate on this one, because I don't think that everybody has the muscle. Number one, I don't think everybody has the desire. Number one,
do it right.
Well, I think that anybody can do it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I don't think that a lot of people have the desire to do it. They don't want the responsibility. They want to go out on the weekends. They want to they want to have a social life, number one, or number two, or number three, or whatever. And they want to, and I'm going to use this word loosely and not in necessarily a negative way, but they're selfish, really. Like, it's a weird thing, right? It's the right
That's
word.
That's a muscle you have to train too. And I had to undo a lot of societal programming to start putting myself first.
Me too.
It turns out my life's a lot better. Like even people around me that I've known forever, like Steve, I'd say our friendship has probably gotten to different levels of depth since I've started doing work on myself and you've done work on yourself, because
Oh,
we're
100%.
presenting
Yeah.
different versions of ourselves to each other that we may have held back before because we had that maybe lack of identity that so many young men face as an issue.
Yeah, well, think about it. Okay, so last night I told you about this business that I wanted to start, right? I told you about a business last night I was thinking about starting.
We're always
Okay,
talking
well,
about business ideas, to be
I
honest.
know, but it's already started and I have 2 clients
Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay.
as of right now.
Yeah. So
Like,
you're
as of
cruising.
right now,
You're getting going.
company's profitable in 1 day, right? It takes
The power of the internet.
muscle. Yeah, well, the power of the internet, first off, but it takes muscle. Number one, you have to build value. We don't even go into that part because I could go down a rabbit hole for days. But it takes it's a muscle in my mind now. When I want to do something, I do a beta test immediately. It's not like Jaron said, well, that may or may not be a good idea depending. And I don't think that the way that he understood it was different than the way that I understood it, because it's in the marketing space, but it's not exactly marketing, right?
Mhm.
The service itself is not actually marketing. So I said, okay, well, this is actually what I'm doing. And he goes, oh, okay, cool, whatever. We don't really talk about it. Woke up this morning, put it together, got 2 appointments with a couple of clients, bought the software, done. 2 clients, profitable. Great, cool, beta test, done. It's needed. It's a needed service, right? And I think that that's something that I don't want to say if you're an alpha or beta or whatever, you can't do it, but as somebody who is directly focused on what's in front of my face at all times, because I have no distractions one way or the other. I think that's a very Sigma-esque type of vibe. Like, okay, well, I want to start this. I have alpha traits too. I'm sure people would argue that I have beta traits too. I'm sure. So I'm not claiming to be an alpha male, beta male, whatever.
It's
I'm
not
just saying that
binary. You're not one or the other. It's like politics. People are like, oh, I'm in
right.
this camp, I'm in that camp. Most people fall in the middle and then they vacillate from side to side. That's just how
Well,
nature works.
yeah. Well, and that's the issue that we're talking that I'm kind of getting to, is like people want, and this is what the Instagram posting too. People want to put themselves in a box so that they can have a checklist of understanding of who they are, what they're doing, blah blah blah. Right? They want this checklist. They want to understand, because we understand so little about ourselves in society today. We understand so little because everything's, dude. We are getting shit from fucking 3,000 directions constantly. All of us. We want to go live on a beach and
Something's
not do
always
shit for
beeping in
50
front of my
years.
face.
I want to move to the fucking forest in Costa Rica and eat fruit and meat the rest of my life and never talk to anybody ever again. And then all of a sudden I want a beach house in Miami. It doesn't make any fucking sense, right? And that's just because of the constant pinging of information in your mind.
Mhm.
And going back to the Sigma males are very good at taking the information, evaluating the information without outside bias, without outside opinions, and putting it in a box and saying, okay, that's something that I would like to pursue, or it's something that I wouldn't like to pursue. And that's probably one of the best traits. I would say the most advantageous traits that anybody can acquire without putting themselves in this label box or whatever. It's probably one of the best traits anybody could ever get them, like, develop within themselves, is the ability to be quiet, like listen, read, write some shit down, pros and
Del-
cons, evaluate
deliberate.
what
It
you're
sounds like
doing,
they deliberate.
deliberate. Yeah. And I did I studied this subject particularly for 3 days before I even brought it up to Jaron. Right. And I knew the service would be valuable. I'm not going to overprice it. I'm doing this ethically. I want it for my existing clients, et cetera, et cetera. It should add $5,000 to $10,000 a month to my business in 90 days.
Yeah. So you're just trying to open new revenue streams, because that's what I'm doing too. And I noticed when I started putting myself out there, like on the YouTube show and putting my real name there, that I always thought it was going to hurt me getting corporate jobs. I've had no problem getting corporate gigs, but now I just don't want to do that. But I get a lot of my work through going publicly. And I realize that a lot of times these like presidents or founders, early stage startup board members, or whatever you have you, and when these people reach out, that a lot of them are just regular dudes like you. They're just bros. And they're like, hey, bro, you have a very clear view of reality. You put it out there the way you experience it. You give people stuff to kind of think about, and we want someone like that on board. But it's really nice because you realize, or the clients realize, like they're not going to get any bullshit from you. You're just going to call it like it is. And once you get that muscle developed, you're like, all right, I can just be me all the time. It makes you more valuable in the labor market too, there, guys. For again, those of you who are a bit younger and maybe don't have that figured out yet, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone's on their own journey. We're all at different points in the path, but Steve, yeah, like that service you were talking about. In terms of like bringing on new revenue streams, I'm right in that point. And I've noticed with my clients that being able to have those different dynamics of your personality developed and being able to display, and then just being truly authentic and transparent, again, just calling shit like it is. Even sometimes you might lack the filter. Yeah, it'll turn people off, but luckily it'll turn them off immediately. It's just like the dating thing. You want to disqualify girls as fast as possible because you don't want time wasters. But I've found that that's really quite helped me in business.
Yeah.
Back to a very high.
Yeah, I mean, it's just for
you guys
go ahead.
mentioned
Go
dating.
ahead.
Steve, I got a question for you. So you were able to have a few successful businesses. How do you maintain, building your businesses, building your clientele, getting them in the pipeline while still maintaining a successful long-term relationship?
I mean, dude, we all have our problems, right? I'm not going to sit here
Mhm.
and lie to everybody who watches this ever and say my relationship is perfect, even though I do this. I mean, it's a give and take all the time. Like, it's a give and take all the time. I've got to
Nothing's
take
ever
away from my
perfect. That's
business.
fantasy land.
Yeah, well,
Like,
and
it's not
like
real.
me, I can speak to this specifically because I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not going to air my dirty laundry by any means, but like there are moments that we go through that I work too much according to her. She doesn't have the dreams
Mhm.
that I do, right?
Okay.
It's not her job to have the
Right.
dreams that I do. I don't need that, right? I don't need that. What I need her to do is be my peace, support me, do the things she already knows how to do, right? She's been here for 2 years. It's not like I'm a surprise person. I'm the same guy. I'm just more motivated since I quit boozing. I'm just more driven. I'm
Yeah.
just more ambitious. I just have bigger dreams. That's all it is, right? So it's not that you're never going to have problems with this. I think that even if a woman is ultra supportive of you and she loves you and she's 100% in, they're
Right.
just not wired like you. They're
Okay.
not going to understand that working 18 hours a day, you can still feel like you're not doing enough. That's just reality. And you have to be okay with that. You have
That's
to
my
be
brain. I
the muscle.
simultaneously feel like I'm overworking and I'm not working enough at the same time. And it's a weird dichotomy to walk around with.
Well, it is, but if you there's
But it moves
Alex
you
Hormozy
forward.
has a short. Yeah, it does.
Mhm.
Alex Hormozy has a short about this. He was talking about how when he talks to his billionaire or I'm sorry, he was reading a study that um, the most successful people in the world have three traits: one, not being enough; two, feeling like they're better than everybody else; and then three, I forgot the third one. But the first two only really matter in this conversation, right?
Mhm.
It's like you're constantly pinging back and forth with imposter syndrome, and you're fighting your relationship, and you have a client that's unhappy. I have a client right now. I've been busting my ass on this fucking project for him, and it's taken like
Mhm.
a month and a half too long to get it done. Like I just
Wow.
can't seem to move the needle because of external sources. I'm not going to place the blame on anybody other than myself because maybe it's my communication technique. Maybe I'm just not good at something I haven't identified yet.
Maybe you
There's
brought on the
something
wrong
always.
client, and
Well,
you can
no,
break up with
the
clients
client's
too.
fine.
Oh,
It's a
oh, it's
settlement
a
that I'm
you.
trying to work with the carrier.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and he doesn't get mad at the carrier. He addresses me because I'm the segue between him and the carrier, right? I am the communication stream, the person who's doing, settling the business for him, and it's taken a month and a half too long. I have to take responsibility for that. Back to the point, just to finish answering your question, it's not a balance. There is no balance. You're either working your dick
Mhm.
off and you're fighting your girlfriend, or you're with your girlfriend and you're thinking about working. And I mean that like she's
Okay.
probably watching this. It's exactly what it is.
I'm like that with my girls now, and they've noticed. Although it's funny, it builds attraction, but they've noticed I've been kind of short with them lately because I have so many things that I've already mentally mapped out that I haven't put in reality yet. That it's like I'm
Yeah,
losing time. Like every second I'm with you,
constantly.
I'm losing time, and I
Yeah,
get, like we've talked about setting smart goals. I've given myself a deadline for it too. It's like this shit has to get done. And normally I'm the type of guy like I'll give myself a deadline and I'll map everything out, and I like to get it done as fast as possible. and then I can refine. So first 30 days, you get everything kind of just more or less laid out. You start pumping some data into it, and then you can refine. And by day 90, it's like you just internalize it and you're on to the next thing. But I'm starting off in a phase like that now. And my girls definitely notice. They're like, hey, like are you here? It's like, oh, what?
Yeah, the most important.
I'm mapping out like a whole new workflow right now as I'm talking to you.
Absolutely. The most important part about it, honestly, is just not number one, in the beginning of the relationship, don't pretend like you can give her a million years of your time. Like when I first started dating my girlfriend, we weren't even dating. We were just hanging out. She was coming over.
Set the
after
precedent
I got
early,
done working.
guys. A lot of guys screw that up in dating.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like even getting necessarily into dating as a subject, but this is actually a very valid thing. Like guys think that, oh, my girlfriend's not going to support it. Okay, get a new girlfriend if she doesn't support it. And I'm not saying go break up with your girlfriend now. Address it, be respectful, be a gentleman about it. Let her know, hey, things are going to be a little bit different for a while. Like I'm going to have to go hard at this. If you love your girlfriend, if you don't love your girlfriend, then fuck her, right? But if you do,
that's a good point to make.
Like if you're just dating some girl that you fucking comes over twice a week and you guys eat dinner and bang, like you don't owe her this shit. I'm talking about girls that have been with you through whatever, whether she's been 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Hey, there's going to be a portion of my life that's going to be changing. If you're with me, it's probably going to change your life a little bit too. I just want to let you know I'm going to be patient with you because I know that you're not used to this, and but this is what it's got to be. This is, I'm not going to negotiate on my goals and my dreams or goals or whatever. And if you address it that way, not only will they respect you, they'll probably be more attracted to you, frankly. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really go ask my girl and say, hey, have you been more attracted to me since you've seen me do whatever? But
you can tell though, based on her behavior.
I'm more attracted to myself, which means that everybody else is going to be more attracted to me as a human being.
It's like a magnet. Yeah, it draws others in.
Yeah, and that's again going back to, I mean, we're kind of talking about Sigma stuff, but got a little off topic, but this is this is one of the mainstays of that kind of guy, that kind of person, because you can kind of be a Sigma woman too, I guess, if you're more of an introvert and you can pretty much, the traits themselves are kind of I think they're interchangeable really, so we can speak on the levels of it's an interchangeable, like a male or female, you can be a Sigma.
And we can start jumping to the traits. Jesse, I was gonna ask you if you had anything else to add, and then I was gonna drop you from the stream, and then if anyone else is in the chat and wants to come up and just hash this out, I'm gonna start bringing it a bit more on topic, and we'll go through the traits, and then what you can do if you might be an unsuspecting Sigma, and how to become one or how to let your inner self shine. Again, I'm not taking a position either or, because a lot of guys in my ideological camp they argue that the Sigma male doesn't really exist. But I think there might be a false understanding of it too.
Well, they're rare. I mean, you don't see them very often, so yeah, it's not a very common.
And realistically, guys, like when you structure your belief system, whatever you believe in, it does exist to you. Like that's a little secret in life no one ever tells you. If you truly believe it exists, then yeah, it's a thing. And if you don't believe it exists, then it's just not a thing. So if you want alpha, beta, and those are the only two categories, cool, that's fine. If you want to include Sigma in one, like, all right, you will notice these things in society and you'll reinforce your belief system based on your lived experiences, and that'll just become a part of who you are. So you can pick and choose these things.
100%.
Yep. Oh, I was going to toss it over to Jesse, and his internet was killed. Well, here, I'll go. I'm going to go ahead and get him out of there. So, guys, oh no, I don't want to ban him. Streaming. Yeah, you're banned.
We'll bring him back eventually. He'll be fine.
Yeah, all right. So, guys in the chat, if you want to come on up and discuss, feel more than free to do so. The link is pinned in the top chat window there. And before we move on to other topics or subtopics of this, if you are a Sigma male and you want to have an alpha tribe of men looking to level up in all areas of love and life by building lives worth living and loving, nailed it. That's a mouthful. Jesus Christ. Then, you're gonna want to join the top 10% group. It's an extension of Rich Cooper from Entrepreneurs in Cars top 1% group. Myself and a couple of the top 1% generals manage that group. We've had a lot of high quality guys come in lately, so it's really up in the level of quality in that group. Not to say it was bad before, but we're getting into some cool topics, and a lot of these topics aren't safe for YouTube. A lot of times you guys want your anonymity. That's totally cool. this is the place to do it. It is the top 10% group. That is a $9.97 lifetime membership fee that gets you discounts on all the coaching services from all the admins in there, including Rich Cooper, discounts on courses, Q&A sessions, Zoom calls. We're starting to do meetups, so we'll have more of those coming down the pike this year. All sorts of exciting stuff going on, but that's Rebuild Your Tribe of Men. We put it at that price point for a starting point. A lot of guys don't have the cash for some of the higher ticket groups. Totally cool. That's fine. I was there at 1.2, so this is why we introduced this product for you. Top 10%, $9.97. Lifetime membership. Hit me up on Instagram at Jaron Scott if you're interested in that. There's a link also down in the description if you want to go straight to the paywall. And then guys have been asking me lately if there's a financing option. We don't have that, but I have it set up through PayPal. So when you go to the payment page, there should be an offer, or there should be an option for you to select PayPal credit. And then, obviously read into the terms and conditions there, take into account any considerations as far as that pertains to your financial picture. But let me know if you're interested in that, or if you need anything else from me, any show topics, you want to get up on something, you want to collaborate, coaching services, I offer those. Or if you just have any general questions, Instagram at Jaron Scott. Again, it's top 10% men's group, private men's group, $9.97 lifetime membership. All right. Oh, I closed my banners tab. I need to figure out StreamYards. It's like I've never done this before. So I'm not going to put up on the screen and read it, but I did do a little bit of research because, as I mentioned at the top of the show, self-admittingly, I'm not necessarily an expert on this, but I do like to explore topics from a 360 panoramic view and then kind of figure out where I stand on it. And that's usually how Steve and I present these shows. So
yeah, totally.
So it says, and I think I used this initially in one of my thumbnails, or when I was doing the design, I had this. Yeah, I believe it's in the title there on the thumbnail. So he's known as a lone wolf. Sigma male embodies a lone wolf mentality. That's something that I've heard thrown around a lot when it comes to describing what a Sigma male is. Steve, I think, or guys, I always joke. I'll be like, hey, don't have an email address on the email that you use on your job applications. It's like Alpha Wolf 42069 or something like that. So I'll have guys reach out to me on Instagram.
That's funny. I never would even.
They'll have like 5 followers, be super aggressive, and it's like Alpha Wolf Stone Fox 69. I'm just like, oh no, oh god, not one of these guys.
Fucking goofball.
But I digress. I can get tangential. So the Sigma is known as a lone wolf. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's actually a cardinal trait. Yeah, I think it's a cardinal trait that's probably why it's number 1 on the list, really.
It's a nice way of saying weirdo. Sometimes I feel like a weirdo. Like I'm the other one living my reality. But when people come into it, like, see guys, my mind's really fun too. You can have a good life.
Yeah, I think that the Sigma male being a weirdo is more due to their introversion, and they're not going to necessarily speak up first, right? I think that they can be perceived as weirdos or be perceived as people like guys. Since I'm a guy, I'm only going to talk about guys. I just want to make that clear.
You're not fluid?
I think they can be, dude.
Gender
not
fluid.
really.
I can't.
Even if I tried, I couldn't be. I have way too many bro habits. It's fucking crazy.
It's funny. Those terms don't even exist here, so I don't even know where they're at. On the Rich calls it the alphabet soup crowd.
Super fluid. I'm fluidly male.
Super fluid. Leaking tranny fluid.
Yeah, I'm leaking.
I've seen the memes. I know.
That's fucking fun.
I experienced the outside world via memes.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as a Sigma male being a lone wolf, I think that's the one major trait. I think there's a lot more. I think it's also the most interchangeable one too, because you can be an alpha male or a beta male or whatever the fuck you want to call yourself male, and still be a lone wolf, and maybe not a lone wolf, but you can still be a loner. I mean, frankly, you can be a loner and be whatever you want, right? So that's pretty much like the really nice way of calling yourself a loner. And I think that they are, but I don't think it's necessarily just Sigmas. I do think that's a good start, though, as far as like if you're going to identify as a Sigma male for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. That's, I mean, you can't be a guy who goes out to the bar and has to have interactions with 100 people at night just to be able to sleep at night because your ego's been filled. That's not a Sigma trait at all. So yeah, I agree with it. Definitely.
It's like
That's
that movie
funny.
Hangover where Zach Galifianakis' character does the toast, yeah, he does the toast, or the Spanish word popped in my head, brindis. He does the toast, and I forget I'm in Mexico sometimes. Like, why does Spanish pop in my head? I'm like, it's all around me. That's why.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, it flows through you once you live in a place long enough. But the movie Hangover, when Zach Galifianakis' character does the toast at the bachelor party, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Well, I once was a lone wolf, and I was in a wolf pack of my own, and now I found my other lone wolves, and now we have a wolf pack of lone wolves." I mean,
Yeah, on the
it's a
roof, I
comedic
remember.
movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the movie Airheads, I love that one where it's like, "Oh, we're the Lone Rangers," and the producer's like, "That doesn't make sense. Like, lone means you're one, but Rangers is plural," and they're like, "Yeah, we're the Lone Rangers." So I was gonna say,
It's funny.
so if you are
It's actually
alone,
really good.
if you are a lone wolf, there is, I think, a degree of credence or it's something you might want to look into and starting to build at least some kind of network, because I'm naturally introverted too.
Yes, that's
A lot
the
of
point
people
I was gonna
don't
bring
believe
up.
it, but I've made it a concerted effort these last couple of years to intentionally build social networks and networks of influence and work on my influence and leverage and reputation amongst these social circles that I've worked to get into. So if you're naturally introverted, guys, you got to make that a concerted effort. And to be honest, like, I'm alone 95% of the time. And the people that come into my life, they're awesome. I have very few guy friends, but we just get each other. We can just go out there, be ourselves, have a
Yeah,
fucking good time. Steve, you're one of those. You're one of the OGs. And then my girls in my life
yeah.
add a lot of value to my life. So echoing Zach Galifianakis' sentiments, yeah, like, I'd say I'm probably a lone wolf to a very high degree, but I also enjoy being in a wolf pack of lone wolves.
That's actually a really good example of full on. I mean, if you were just take this situation and take the humor out of it, like that's what it is. Once you're you're rolling around. Lone wolves roll around alone. They start their businesses alone. Generally, they have friends that do the same thing for
All my friends
themselves.
are lone wolves. Yeah.
Yep. And then when you find your wolf pack, I guess, since that's the example we're
It's the,
using,
it's the metaphor we're
then
using.
those are your
We're
people
sticking
and they're
to it.
your people. That's the whole thing. Once they're your people, and you're not there's it's very, very difficult to get in to that wolf pack. Like you have to, like, not necessarily, we're not gonna prove yourself, just prove yourself. And you do it over time. And it's kind of interesting. I didn't really think about it like that. Like between you and I and then our other friends, like we all kind of just like, doesn't matter if we don't talk for a year or 3 months or whatever, we're just instantly back to where we were, because
Mhm.
those are our people, right? That's what we do. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, well, you go out, you live your life, and like I said, 95% of the time, I'm usually
You're
alone doing my
alone.
own thing.
Yeah.
A lot of guys fall in that camp too. You might have more social type jobs, so there's obviously exceptions to the rule that I literally just pulled out of my ass right now. So take that as you may.
Yeah. Exceptions
People
to
that
the
get
rule that didn't
persnickety in
exist
the
until 5
comments,
minutes ago.
yeah, guys, comment down below. And Oh, but there are oh god, I completely forgot the point I was going at.
Oh, that's cool. I mean,
Here we go.
that
Yeah,
moves into
brought it
point
up.
two, actually,
Yeah,
as far as
actually,
self-reliance,
I was
right?
gonna bring the next point.
Right. Yeah. Self-reliance, this article is really generalizing, but good
Uh-huh.
examples of being self-reliant are being able to cook, clean, and manage your own responsibilities. And they say, while making it look easy, guys, it is easy to take care of yourself. It really is. Once you make
Yep.
it a habit, I mean, if you fucking don't
Build
clean or
systems
cook
into your
or
life. Just make it a
dude, and
routine. Get it
quit being
done.
fucking lazy. Like that's it. Just quit
It
being fucking
sucks.
lazy.
Yeah, I don't like doing
Cook,
laundry. I don't like
clean.
cleaning dishes. If when I'm alone, I got to do it
But we do
myself.
it
I'm
because
a
it
we-
is easy. It's
I'm
just
a weirdo where, like, I don't like dishes in the sink. So like when I'm done with the dish, I clean
yeah,
it. But I think there's a
not like
stack there now.
retarded.
But my cleaning lady's coming in the morning, so leave
Yeah,
some
and I
work
don't
for
have a
her.
clean. I got a cleaning lady. She's like 5'2" and a redhead, so and she sleeps next to me.
Guys,
She's
get
gonna
cleaning
hate me for
ladies.
calling
Yeah,
her. She's
I
gonna
used to
hate
be
me for
so
calling her a cleaning lady.
I used to be so against that. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to get a cleaning lady because that means I'm lazy. But you do the breakdown as far as like the time commitment or the lost opportunity cost. Just take whatever you make at an hourly rate. If your salary, you divide that by 2080 to get that number, and you realize, you know what, it's a better value for my time to just hire someone to clean my house for me, and then I could be doing other things that I'd much rather enjoy doing. So a little tip there.
Yeah, that actually segues into the initial reason for me even getting on the internet in the first place is like if you're building a business, you don't have any business having a massive house, 5 dogs. Unless you're married and you have kids and all that shit, fine, do whatever you need to do. But if you're a dude and you have a girlfriend or you don't, and you're starting a business, the best thing you can do is reduce your lifestyle maintenance down as much as humanly possible. And that
Yep.
means getting a smaller apartment or moving closer to a gym so you can get there faster. A lot of these people have 30-minute fucking commutes just to go to the gym. That's an hour a day. In my world, that's $150. You just spend $150 to drive back and forth from
Closest
the
gym to
gym.
my house is where I go. And then when you select where you're going to live or rent or buy or do whatever, then you take these things
Smart
into
choices.
account.
Yeah,
Years ago, I realized,
absolutely.
dude, I used to do the commute thing too. Like where I grew up, I worked out on a former military site. It was like an hour drive each way. And a lot of times the weather is shitty most of the year. So as my career's progressed, I've been shortening my commute times, even finding like not a bad neighborhood, but like the best neighborhood closest to the office. Or a lot of times, I worked in fintech forever. My offices were like right downtown. So Steve, there's when you and I worked together in San Diego, it was like a 12-block walk. And that's just how I got to work every morning. So you condense the time windows for things like commutes or doing chores or shit that you'd rather not be doing.
Lifestyle
And
maintenance,
that opens more time. I structure my schedule in time blocks, and then they're flexible so I can move them around. So if I'm like, all right, I need a 4-hour creative time block for this task that needs to get done this week, then I can structure that however I want in my week. But the commute thing was killing me. And then I got to the point where, okay, I live close enough to the office where I could ride a bike. That was pretty cool. And now this is my office where you see me now. I'm in my house.
Yep.
And then the
walked 10
gym's the
feet and
closest
sat down.
gym. And I realized very quickly that a lot of times, a lot of the things I need, I don't mind paying maybe $100, $200 more per month for rent to get my time back. If I can live in a neighborhood that has a lot of shit going on, there's my bars, there's my restaurants, I have multiple gyms here. All of the nice plazas are here. All of the top end restaurants are here, and they're within 4 to 8 blocks. So I rarely, like, traffic here is atrocious. I'm in Mexico City. It's one of the worst cities in the world, but I'm rarely stuck in traffic because if I need to go somewhere, I plan around the peak traffic windows. And I live here in the neighborhood, and the town's humongous, but a lot of big towns, even in the US, they're kind of structured that way where they're neighborhoods and you pretty much have everything you need in the neighborhood. So take that into account
usually.
when you're structuring your life, when you're mapping out what your living situation is going to look like.
Well, a perfect example is right here. The gym is a mile away in a car. That's a 3-minute drive with like 2 stoplights. We have a grocery store on either kitty corner or either opposite corners of each other. So, we can be to the grocery store in 5 minutes. It's not a 15-minute drive or anything crazy like that. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much the two things that I do the most. So,
Yep.
So yeah.
So I kind of deviated from the point a bit, but another trait is highly self-reliant, but you can outsource shit you don't like doing. Another example.
True. It's not that expensive either.
Yeah, growing up, like, it was always part of our chores that someone had to mow the lawn, and we'd rotate between the siblings or whatever, and that always sucked. So when I got my own place, I'm like, oh, I got to do the lawn. I remember I felt really guilty. I'm just like, I'm gonna hire this out, and then I've been living in high rises for probably like the last 10 years. I'm like, I don't want to do any of that shit. I'd rather just pay the HOA, although HOAs can be a pain in the ass sometimes. I'll just rather deal with that and then outsource someone else dealing with maintenance and pest control and receiving the mail and all that shit. So it's really just about what conveniences you want in your life.
It's you don't like as if you're running a business and you got to run that motherfucker 7 days a week. You're not trying to go to Home Depot and spend an hour looking for roach killer. Like, just pay the $100. Like, just pay the $100.
Yeah, exactly.
It's way easier, and you're not an expert at that shit anyway. So.
All righty. Well, we got a new face backstage. I don't believe I've seen you up here, sir. So I'll bring you on up. And how are you doing? Can you see and hear us? And
yes, I can. I'm from Kenya.
From Kenya? Are you in Kenya right now?
Yes, I am.
Do you have headphones by any chance? I'm getting feedback. Are you listening to me on your computer speakers?
Yes. Let me try something.
Yeah, you can use the same microphone, but the audio, if it goes to the ears, we won't get the feedback.
Yeah.
What about
for my audio-only listeners? I'm on all your major podcasting platforms.
Right.
I think right now it's okay.
Yes, that's much better.
That sounds way better.
Yeah.
So, what's a question, comment, or just want to join the discussion?
Yes, I'd like to join the discussion. the type of men. I think we're discussing the type of men that are Sigma.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I on my side I do live alone because I'm in my 20s. I'm 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on becoming the best version of me. Right now I have a 10-hour job during the day, and
Okay.
I sleep at
What do you do?
4.
What do you do for a job, or what kind of like major industries are there where you're located?
No, I manage a betting shop.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I also work as a cashier, but that's from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can see it's long,
That's
very
a
long.
job. That's a hell of a job.
Yeah,
That is a job, yeah. And those aren't easy jobs either. I hate dealing with the general public. Maybe people are way more cool in Kenya. Well, people here in Mexico are cool.
exactly.
I wouldn't mind selling, like having a little bar or something here someday. People here are super cool, but yeah, in the U.S., I hate the general public.
Fair enough.
Those are,
Yeah.
sorry to break it, but I thought that if I'd move around from this place, I'd stop meeting stupid people, and I came to realize that stupid people are almost everywhere.
They're everywhere. It's
Yeah,
universal.
yeah.
It's what brings us together as
You're not
humans.
gonna.
It's the stupid people
Yeah,
fucking everything up for the smart people. Most smart
That's
people
what
everywhere
are
they're
I
nice.
know
distributed.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It's silly.
Yeah. So I just find it good to live alone, do my shit alone. But most of the time I have to interact with people, but I limit my conversations. I let them speak.
Well,
Yeah.
you deal with the
That's a
general public, so do you feel like sometimes you're performing? Because when I've been in those positions, you realize all the transactions kind of look the same. A lot of the conversations with, let's call them stupid people, for lack of a better word, just normal people, your average Joes.
Sure.
General public, general population. When you deal with those people, like a lot of times, there's not a lot of depth in the conversation. A lot of them, you kind of hit the same beats. They ask the same questions, and it's almost like you're just pulling a movie script out of the back of your head. You're like, all right, I'm stepping into this role again. And I use the term exchange pleasantries with those types of people.
fucking avatars, man.
Yeah, NPCs.
NPC avatar. Whatever.
Exactly. NPCs. Sometimes I feel frustrated because I try to explain some of the things that are happening to their lives. Maybe they ask me a little bit. I do a lot of research, and I'm well knowledgeable, and I feel empty. And when I describe when I kind of sort a problem to them, and they don't follow up.
Oh yeah.
That's most
Oh,
people.
you mean you give people advice and they don't listen to you?
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
That's funny. Yeah, that's funny.
That's most people. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't
Really
get
should.
around that. That's why I say for like guys
Yeah.
that are kind of in the red pill space, like Rich Cooper says all the time, be mindful of the fucks you give to things that are outside of your control, because if you allow yourself to get pissed off at outside circumstances, and we live in a world of mostly people that kind of have their heads up their asses, or they're just background extras in a high budget Hollywood movie, then yeah, you're gonna be pissed off all the time. So I use the term too. Those people are often not on my radar until they come on my radar. They always run into in the airport. I don't know why. They stop in the middle of the aisle, or
I
they're
feel like
coming
it's a
right at
test.
you.
I feel like you
It
say
is.
you
Yeah,
like
it could be.
I tell you like, man, I'm gonna try to be more patient with people. Like I'm gonna try so hard. And then like the next day I get like 8 people in a row that are just fucking miserable.
Sunday and Monday, yeah, I had a lot of dipshits I had to deal with. I think I had some videos clipped from Rich Cooper's Generals chat, and then that went out. So usually I get like a lot of inbounds, or I'll get comments. But man, I got some really fucking stupid people these last 2 days, and then a couple, not my girls, like not my MLTRs, but like new girls. I'm trying out for the rotation. Some new ones, like I've seen once or twice already. Like started getting bullshit from a handful of them too. I was like, all right, are the stars misaligned right now, or what's going on here? But
I think it's
today's been a good day. Yeah,
I think it's just the universe testing your patience. I mean, at the end of the
you
day,
make a
like have you
bold
noticed like
declaration, yeah, and it just starts throwing you these challenges immediately.
yeah, well you start like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna go to the gym, or I'm gonna eat better or whatever, and then all of a sudden you get a meeting that comes up right at the time you're supposed to go to the
Pizza
gym,
party.
or or a pizza party or some crazy
Pizza
shit
Hut
like
starts
that.
putting ads in your Instagram stream. I'm like, fuck, like
And you're like, fuck you,
gotta have a
bro.
6-pack from Miami. God, Damn it.
Yep.
Hey, Steve,
Dude.
I'm gonna take a bio break real quick, but if you and how do you pronounce your name? Is it Mojo?
Yes, Mojo Senior.
That's a cool name. Oh, there's a little Mojo. You got Big Mojo and little Mojo.
No, that's a nickname, but I made it sound like Joe. I wanted to call it Joe,
Uh
but
huh.
I'm also called Moses.
Oh,
Moses. I like
nice.
So it's
Moses. Moses is a cool
I like
name.
Moses.
eh,
Yeah, Moses is a pretty
Moses.
smart guy.
Moses.
I'll bear back
Just
into.
that I was starting to deviate a little from following the religion and being a
Uh huh.
typical NPC. Because I started unplugging from the lies that the society has been feeding us, and I started seeing things that the way they are.
Yeah. What was it? What was your first step in that process? Like when you decided when you made the decision, you were like, "This is what I'm going to do." What was the first step you took to get
To
yourself
unplug.
on the way to unplug, whatever that means to you?
Well, well, I read a book called Manipulation, and then I read another book called I think it's The Rational Male, followed by the Unplugged Alpha
Yeah,
by Ronald.
Rich. Yeah,
Oh, guy, God damn it, Rich Cooper.
yeah,
Rich Cooper.
absolutely. We know who it
Sorry
is.
guys.
No, you're good.
And then and then I went ahead and did all the mistakes. All the mistakes that were written in the books.
Mm-hmm.
I went ahead and lived with a girl for 8 months, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I went ahead and tested everything that the woman was perpetuating over to me, and was written in the
Sure.
book. I knew everything that was happening, and
Right.
I can't remember. Okay, I played my cards well. That I started becoming a nuisance to her, and she left. I
Mm-hmm.
had written everything down. I had written everything down, and how she's going to come into my life, and I test everything. I hope karma is not coming to to get back
Did
at
you
me.
prove to yourself that the book isn't necessarily wrong?
I think every man should read that book. Every man
Yeah,
should
I've
read
read the
that
book
book.
before.
Yeah, and everything that happens, I'm glad that the radical feminism and toxic feminism, I think, is coming to a full circle, because almost all the men are realizing everything that's happening. We are seeing less men that are bending to women's wants. At least so many, at least a larger contingent of the male population are starting to unplug. Although it's a hard job, because as much as you can talk to a person, the only
Yeah.
decision he can make is his.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you identify as an alpha male, sigma male? Do you have any of those questions? Are you traits?
I think I believe I have started to identify as an alpha, because of the things that are happening in my life right now. I'm attracting good women,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful women, beautiful women.
Sure.
I'm attracting beautiful women. My things are getting aligned. I wasn't everything that I plan right now goes into fruition.
Good. That's really there's nothing there's definitely nothing negative about that.
That's actually
Yeah, yeah.
not a lot of people define it that way, but that's how I define it. Because you
That's
do
a
have the internal
really really good
dialogue,
take
like, am I living
actually.
up to my expectation? Am I working hard enough? Am I working too hard? Am I letting go and having too much fun? Am I not having enough fun? But for me, at the end of the day, I can visualize something, put a time frame on it, and it does manifest in my physical reality. So people ask me like, "Oh, do you think you're alpha?" I'm like, I don't know. I'll just let you know what I'm up to and kind of what my life looks like, and you can decide for yourself. But I'm not complaining. Let's say that I'm having a very good time in this experience we call life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so and most of the time that so many things are I had a overhaul of things that are happening to me, that I'm not begging for guys to stay in my life. I'm not begging anybody to stay in my life, and people are coming into my life. I'm not going over to them. I'm not getting into
Mhm.
into their friend. They're coming to me. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Those are
to
good
hear.
signs.
Yeah.
We were talking about that on the 10% call last week for the private community I pitched a few minutes ago. And that was one of the things, like, how do you know when you're becoming a leader? I'm like, God, that's sometimes a question I ask myself too. But yeah, when people start, I use the scene from the movie Forrest Gump with Tom Hanks, 1994 flick. It used to be one of my favorite movies, but I watched it so many times that I can't really watch it anymore because I can repeat all the dialogue. But when he's on his run, and then he's just I just felt like running, and then one day there's this giant group behind him, and he's not even paying attention. He's just on his purpose, let's say. And I know that there's that has a little lower IQ in that movie. But he has a fixed mindset. This is where I'm going, and damn it, I'm going to get there. I'm just going to go until I feel like stopping. And then he turns around. He's like y'all can go home now. I'm kind of tired of running. So that's kind of how I see it, where people come into your life, and I don't even have to broadcast what I'm up to. I think it's weird. It's like people can just kind of read your energy, or you walk into a room and they just kind of feel your presence, and something strikes a little spark of curiosity or intrigue. They're like, who's that guy? I gotta go talk to that guy. And you notice these things. In my development, same thing. I'd go into a nightclub where I'm the only white dude in there, and people are like, hey, Jay, be cool. I'm like, no, dude, I'm fucking always cool. What are you talking about? And then like the alpha males of the club are like, hey, brother, and bring me over to their table. And you start to notice these things as you develop. So again, the definition's up to whatever. I don't really care if I'm alpha, beta, or sigma, or whatever, but you notice these things. You're like, well, maybe I could be. Don't know. Shit didn't happen before.
Right.
As much as sorry to interrupt. As much as I think
okay.
we've developed as a civilization, I think we're still very primal. You can sense when the big animals stand up when you get into a room, and you have that energy that maybe you've not engaged in sex in like a month straight.
I go 2 days and I'm cranky.
Sure. Yep. When you get into a room, people are starting to turn back and look at you. That energy, I think, is very real. We still sense it.
I'll actually do that sometimes before I go out, for a big social event. Sometimes it's a different topic we can cover a different day, but like the transmutation of sexual energy, and as a guy, like how you want to do that. So for certain girls or for certain events, like maybe I will take a few days off or some time off because I want to have that charge, that spark to me. Whereas when you're just busting nuts all day long, you're kind of like, like the old movies where the Roman emperors laying there and a bunch of naked chicks around the bed and people are fanning them with palm leaves and feeding them grapes. You kind of fall into that sometimes too. So sometimes I do like to have that kind of, just be a little charged. Guys,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna cruise through the comments real quick, and then we can keep this up. So, north south, miss driving my old Beamer on the 8 freeway by Jack Murphy Stadium, playing techno music. I do like cruising in California. I always had sports cars there too. My last car was actually affordable. I took Aaron Clary's advice, like don't spend more than $6,000 on a car, and found an old Porsche Boxster, drove up to Sacramento, drove it back down with the top down. Don't do that because I got the seatbelt sunburnt like across my body. So don't do that. Drove the car down, and I love driving in California. So there are very few things I miss about the U.S. And I was telling someone earlier that I miss driving. I like our big U.S. Interstate system. Highways in most countries aren't that good unless they're like private roads. Jake, that hits home. Jaron feels like I'm working too much and not enough at the same time. Dude, I always feel that way. I think I've always felt that way, and then sometimes
it's never gonna go away, bro. It's cool.
Yeah, like for example,
cool.
Yeah, right before this show, I was sitting on the
It's never
toilet.
gonna go away.
I was sitting on the toilet and I was thinking in my head, like, God, I'm not working hard enough. Like, should I go back to the corporate thing? And I was like, no, I looked at my finances yesterday. I'm actually gonna come in more this month, second month doing this. And last month I replaced my corporate income too.
It's a muscle.
Just doing YouTube, just getting
Right.
myself out there, helping guys out, and in return, some cool guys reach out and they want to do some cool projects. I'm like, shit, like I'm really doing it, but I feel like it should be more. I should be triple.
Putting in more effort. Yeah, well, it's an effort issue, and that's where the muscle thing comes in. Like you feel like you have to work. You feel like to make whatever 20 grand a month, you've got to absolutely fucking hammer, and I mean just like, and
I
you've
have
made
to
20
break
grand
it
a
up.
month.
Yeah, I did 30. I did 30 last April, and that was my best month. And my first income out of college was $52K. So I'm like, all right, I made in like less than 90 days, 60 days, what I made coming out of college in a full year. And that's what I feel like. It feels like you don't deserve it. It's like I'm not doing the 9 to 5. I'm not sitting in the hour-long commute. I'm not getting yelled at by bosses for stupid shit. Like, you didn't see me CC me on that email. I was like, you didn't need to be CC'd. It's like, I'm
Yeah,
trying to respect your
100%.
time, dickhead. You don't deal with any of that stuff anymore. It's like, all right, I wake up, I go to the gym. So some days I have like singing lessons, or I go out, or I have other appointments. I do follow up on leads, some sales calls, chat with my buddies, do content creation, get on a live stream,
Yeah.
smoke a spliff, play guitar, bang a chick, eat dinner, go to bed, do it again. There's an activity I run my coaching clients through that I call like creating the perfect day. So I set my life up like that. And it's like you feel guilty, like, no, I should be suffering. I should be struggling. But I look at the bank account, I look at every objectable metric or quantifiable metric. I'm like, killing it. I'm crushing it.
So there's two sides to this. There's a positive and a negative. The positive is you're killing it, right? Obviously, you've designed your perfect day, and you're continuing
Per my
to,
old definition of myself.
Whatever, and you can evolve that or do whatever you need to do. The negative part about it is you get into, like, after you develop the muscle, sometimes you get into a state of comfort or kind of indifference, and instead of doing what you needed to do, or instead of doing the same thing you did to get yourself there in the first place every day, you dial it back. Like, you don't have to work as hard. Now, that can be good and that can be bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That can be bad, obviously, because if you take your eye off the ball, you're going to miss, and you'll notice your performance, your overall like sales performance is going down when you don't need to eat.
I
your
always
sales
say,
performance.
When things are in motion, that's when you put your foot on the gas. And then when things kind of level out, like maybe you'll hit like a plateau, then it's kind of like, okay, let's readjust to, it's like the weight loss thing. Like I said, when I lost like 100 pounds of fat in a year. And then I took a year off, like, just let my body come into itself, let it readjust. Like I threw a lot of stress at it these last 9 to 12 months. It's kind of like that, I think, in life too. Like, all right, there's some momentum. Now I'm seeing results. Okay, now you put the pedal to the metal, you put your feet to the fire, and you fucking give that extra push to see where it doesn't land you. But like there's ups and downs in life. You'll plateau, you'll start coming down, and that's when you got to kind of, okay, let's reassess, or okay, now I'm at this level. How do we maintain this before we look at going to the next level? So that's kind of how my mind's wired. Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with getting, hitting leveling up, and then and then looking around and saying, wow, I'm super grateful, number one, that I've gotten the opportunity to be at this level, because there's not a lot of people that will see this, number one. And number two, it's like, okay, now who am I? Let's make sure Steve or Jaron is dialed in, right? Let's make sure I'm still doing what I believe in. Let's reassess the goals, reassess the values, and then look at it and see what the next level even looks like, because you don't know until you, like, if you're a level 2, level 3, until you're a level 2, you don't know what level 3 is supposed to look like.
Exactly.
Like, you're just kind of fucking winging.
You're just trying to get there. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, well, you're just trying to get anywhere. Like, people that stay at that normal kind of, or below normal, whatever. I mean, dude, this is so individual, but I would say if you make 30K and your next goal is to make 50, once you get to 50, you have to stop and say, okay, I'm good. I'm doing everything ethically. I'm a good person. I'm not shitting on the people around me. I'm doing the best that I can. I feel good about what I'm doing. How can I get to 70 and feel the same way? And kind of just tune whatever the fuck you're doing. And this goes back to, I know we're getting way the fuck off subject, but
no, we'll bring it back. It's a good
this goes back to, like, the guys who fake the fakers on Instagram, the guys who make themselves avatar of the perfect rich person, whatever the fuck that looks like, and it's not real. And then these people who are, let's say, 45K fucking plant operator or some shit, it's like, dude, I could use if I could make another 30 grand a year, I could live the life that I want to live. Well, there's truth to that, and there's not. Because once you get, say you're 45 and you want to get to 75, you do a side hustle, get to 75. Great, congratulations, you leveled up, right? Mm-hmm. Once you get to 75, you're gonna realize that 75 is not shit. Okay, cool. We all know the difference between 75 and 45 is whether you can pay your rent or not. Really, that's pretty much all it is. The next level is, like, say 100. Like, you're constantly going through these. I forget what my entire point was, but you go through these, like, little chunks. Oh, these guys are like, oh, well, this is how I make $100,000 a month. Okay, motherfucker, time out.
It's
I
a
don't even think
framework
about
you
normal
install in
being.
your head, and then you can just recall it at any given time. Is kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, well, I'm just talking about framing this for the majority of people. It's like, okay, well, instead of like these guys, and then they, okay, so these guys who get to this guy who gets to 75 is killing it for himself. He's feeling real good about himself, and he's also in the top 5% of men at this point. Like that's what he doesn't realize at that earning capacity. So now that he's at the top 5% of guys, he's sitting on his couch having a beer, watching a fucking football game on a Sunday, and he scrolls past an Instagram story of some dude 10 years younger than him that's making $1 million a month with some fucking bullshit e-commerce. Like, and then he's like, wow, I'm a fucking piece of shit. Now he has to reevaluate who he wants to be based off of some sort of fake ass media bullshit. They completely wrecked him. Now he feels like he's not even a level 1. He feels like he's a level 0. And that's kind of, I guess that was the point. Like that we can getting back to the Sigma thing. Is these guys just don't ingest this shit without some sort of pragmatic system that they've developed in their mind. Like at 100K, they're not looking at a multi-million-dollar guy and going, "Oh, well, I feel like a piece of shit because I'm not him," because he realizes that the
At
reality is
105K, I was looking at 120, and then 135, and then 150, and then 175, up around
yeah,
200, and then now I stay between 135 and 150 because I realize, okay, here's my point of proficiency. It's actually smarter if I take a job maybe a level or two back that I can do in my sleep that I've done time and time again, because I can just put on a podcast, put on some synthwave music, plug in my headphones and just bang it the fuck out. And then I can work for multiple clients at a time. So I did that for most of last year. The concept is called overemployed. And that's a good way to put a lot of cash in the bank very quickly. Again, the key there, guys,
yeah,
for those of you, because I know in the title we put like, what is a Sigma male? We're getting to that. And then also, how do you become one? For me, like there's little hacks, there's little tricks you can do. And since you guys are already very structured in your thinking, since you already know how to kind of like break the matrix or step outside of the paradigm and figure out how to use it to your advantage, then you can do things like this. And then I'm at the point now. I started off doing that, and then started doing 1099 contracts. And now, for the last couple of years, I've just said I consult. But once you get to that point, you realize, okay, well, here's what I'm worth. But like back in the corporate, like you can only have one job at one time. Okay, who says who? Who the fuck said that? Why do you think that? You can literally just kind of change your brand. Steve, you're touching on that. So my LinkedIn, it's all corporate consulting. It's all consulting, which is nice because you can get really creative with the terms. You can negotiate really interesting type deals and then structure your day and your life the way you want to do it. And again, I'm new to learning that. I'm going on like year 3 of it. And now, like I said, I kind of like you mentioned earlier, you set something up or you have this idea, you take 2 or 3 days to set it up. You're like, oh shit, money's trickling in now. So it's really just about breaking your old paradigm, your own way of looking at it, your own systematic thinking, reconfiguring that, or maybe just blowing it up and starting from scratch, and then looking at the world from different terms. And to bring it back to the Sigma thing, based on kind of as we're getting into the topic, it sounds like a lot of those guys are wired that way. Again, I was indifferent to the topic, but now as we go into it, I'm like, well, if that's what a Sigma male is, maybe I am too. But yeah, I don't put myself in boxes.
there's a lot of positives. Yeah, there's a lot of positives and negatives necessarily like about it. I mean, you're not necessarily a social. You're not like a big group guy, which that's where I kind of fail in like to meet the exact criteria, right? Because like sometimes I want to go down the street and sit at a table and watch a game and hang out with a fucking group of dudes that I don't know and just shoot the shit and have a cigar, and like that's cool. I'm not saying that
Sometimes I
need
like
to
hanging out with dumb people. Like we were talking earlier about stupid people. Sometimes I like that. Like
yeah.
just getting drunk and watching other guys throw a ball around the field. It's like, oh yeah, they're wearing a color of a town that I grew up 4 hours from. So yeah, those are my guys. I'm no fucking guy on the team.
Well, the nice thing about normal people, and I can say this like because I hang out around a lot of normal, or I've hung out around a lot of normal people. I think everybody has, is they kind of bring you into what the world's really doing. Like they just do. Like they get kind of for a day or two after I hang out with people that I would consider normal, I kind of chill a bit, and I don't mean in a negative or non-productive way. I'm so vicious when it comes to like what I actually want. I'm so like dialed in that regard that going to one of these places, having a cigar with a couple of guys that work at a factory or in consulting or whatever, and they just live normal
They're
lives with
funny
families.
too.
they're funny, but they're just normal. Like they're not constantly trying to drive their business. They're not trying to add services. They're not trying to, drop body fat 6%. They're just, and I say they're just existing, but that's all. There's also, that's binary too. Like there's goods and bads about that. Like hanging out around those people don't necessarily make it a habit. Don't hang out with them every day. Otherwise, you're gonna some of their ideology. Their ideologies. You're gonna uh, you're gonna take on for yourself, and that's not necessarily what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is just cut the noise down a bit in your own head. Because I think when you do, and this is just theory, try it out, don't try it out, I don't give a fuck. But I think that if you are the type of person that's constantly talking to yourself and constantly driving forward towards a goal, you can get off into the weeds a lot, because as a Sigma male, or at least having that Sigma trait, you don't necessarily take feedback like at all, much less well, right? The market is your feedback, and then you're constantly in a driver of like solutions and this, and then you just kind of go through this process of completely, it's kind of self-sabotaging if you don't stop for a second. And a good way to stop is to go out to some place that normal people hang out and converse with normal people that don't know about you, don't know about your business, and are just chilling and like don't have any plans, nothing, and just let all of the the debris settle at the bottom of your brain before you try to scoop it out. It's almost like a refresh for a guy who has that trait. And I
Yeah,
never
that's a
really
great
thought
point.
about it. No, I didn't think about it.
Mojo, you got anything else to add, sir?
I tend to believe I tend to believe the Sigma male traits come from a long time ago, from a long way back. Sorry, from a long way back. For me specifically, there was a time I couldn't be using the same road twice. Let's say there's a road A and road B. I couldn't go on road A, even if there are fewer people and the people that are on the road don't even know me. I look for another way to come back, or another way to do the same walk, because I don't think I've ever liked interacting with the general public for so long. And another trait is lack of addiction, lack of addiction to things that are addicting the general public, such as uh-huh. Oh shit. Sorry. Can you
Social
please go
media,
ahead?
drugs, alcohol, porn,
Yeah, sure.
devices. Yeah.
Sure. I'm the type of person that is not getting addicted to that. I will know when I'm getting sucked in, and I write it down, and I look for solutions to addiction, and I just get out of it. I don't know if I'm lucky. I just don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think that
I mean, some people just don't have that issue.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point, which will bring us on to this next trait. But before that, Mojo, if you don't have anything to add, I'm going to drop you back in the chat. And then, guys, if anyone else wants to get up here and shoot the shit, you're more than welcome. But Mojo Senior, thank you for stopping on by, sir. Thank
Yeah,
you
we
for
appreciate it.
following the show,
Thanks
and
for
I look forward to
contributing.
seeing you around.
Thank you.
All righty, cheers. Take care. All righty, so next trait, and again, this wasn't the intent of the show, but it seems like I'm I'm convincing myself I might be a Sigma, although I didn't even know what it was before. But
Yeah.
there's a sense of adventure. He's an adventurer. Mojo made a good point in terms of having different paths. I'm kind of wired that same way too. I get tired of the same shit after a while. It's like an intellectual challenge to map these things out in my mind, put them into existence, and then once you get there, you celebrate a bit, and you level up, and you settle into your new self, or that new version of yourself in that category, that vertical of your life. But then it's almost immediately like, all right, what's next? What are we doing next? What does this next chapter of your life look like? Where are we going? Where are we moving? Where are we living? What do we want to do? What do we want to learn? Who, me, myself, and I having these conversations, who do you want to be? And it's that part of the process is really quite exciting, I believe. So I would say that all kind of stems from that sense of adventure. Like I knew when I was a young kid that I was going to leave home I knew it from pretty young, and I was counting down. Like the minute I got my car, I remember like 7, 8 years old. I'm like, all right, like 7 years, then I can drive. And then when I got the
100%.
car, I'm like, all right, only a couple more years. I was a couple years ahead in school, and they wouldn't let me graduate early, these motherfuckers. So I did like the junior college. I got my AA when I graduated, and then I worked on the radio half the day, or days that I wasn't going to class, I worked at a video store for like longer shifts. So I already had a lot going on, but I knew I was going to get out of there. Like that, I had that sense of yearning to get out and experience the world for what it is, the good, bad, ugly, everything in between, and just get a raw sense of what the natural world feels like. And again, this definition of a Sigma male, that there's always some sort of, like we covered, the lone wolf, the self-reliability, the having yourself together, and the sense of adventure. And that's something that I've always carried with me, and I don't think that's ever going to go away.
Yeah, I'm the same exact way as that. I mean,
you move more than I do. I spend 2 or 3 years in a city. You're every few months for a while, but you're
I'm
doing
well. I was well. It was. I mean, that was. I was a victim of my victim. I was a victim of my.
sell.
Yeah, it was sell. It was that, and when you don't have anybody or anything as far as responsibilities, there's no reason to stop.
Mhm.
And I always told myself when I that I would eventually have a life, I guess, in a way, right? And I mean, I accidentally made it where I am, and then it just kind of worked out the way that it's worked out so far. But yeah, dude, I constantly think about going and doing stuff. I'm constantly thinking about getting on a plane. I'm constantly thinking about going somewhere, doing something.
I always
And
have wanderlust, and I'll always battle
dude,
with it.
it's fucking wacky, but I
And then
think a
it's weird.
lot of it
I go
too.
to these places and I feel guilty. Like, oh, I could be doing something more productive. I'm like, no, that's a part of you. Lean into it.
Yeah,
I had some retard pop into Rich's audience is so funny. I had some retard pop into one of the comments the other day on the live stream we did. It's like, yeah, Jaron mentioned like he went to Miami, then he went to Vegas, and he went here, and he's going there, and now he's doing this thing. Like, dude's toast needs to get his shit together. I'm just like, what are you talking about? The fact that I have my shit together allows me to do those things.
yeah,
I love when people comment, like, not only are they wrong, but they're like, they couldn't be more wrong. They're like 100% opposite of what is actually true. So I always get a kick out of those types of things. But I have that sense of wanderlust. It's always calling. And then when I lean into it, I do feel guilty a bit. I think I responded like, hey man, you gotta lighten up, have some fun in life. And you can't always be in hustle mode because you're going to fucking burn yourself out. And then I'm naturally wired to I like to experience the natural universe. That's why I live in warm climates. I like my windows open all the time. I always have hummingbird friends. I love my hummingbird friends, and I like green spaces. I like hiking. I like deserts and mountains and beaches. I like everything, and I want all of it. So
yeah, 100%.
it's funny that a lot of guys, probably a non-Sigma male, normal guys, stupid people, wired in the way that's like, oh, well, you're not living your life exactly how I live it, so you must be a piece of shit. I'm like, all right, dude, you're retarded.
I think,
But
yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, I think that my wanderlust, my number one, not wanting. I mean, I just don't accept somebody else telling me what to do. Number one, but I think it's partly like that trait in me is a profound understanding of mortality, like understanding that they flip the timer over the minute you were born, and one day you just aren't going to be doing this anymore. And that to me is enough drive and motivation to do what I want when I want, even if there is a consequence. And there's a
Transcend.
yeah,
That's how I look
that's
at
the
it.
defining factor is like, if it's going to make me miserable, I'm not going to fucking do it unless it's something that's going to advance something in the near future. Like I'm not the guy with a 5-year plan or 10-year plan. I don't have that
It's like
shit.
going to the gym. I go to the gym every day. Like I don't look forward to it anymore. I always look forward to the walk home where I'm feeling really good, and I know I got
Yeah.
it knocked out of the way for the day, and it keeps my discipline muscle sharp
It's like
and
brushing your
shredded and
teeth.
intact. But yeah, brushing my teeth, taking a shit. Like I don't like even a shower. I don't like doing any of that stuff. But you just do it. You have to. But it's not like, oh, this sucks. So like I'm battling whether I'm motivated to shower or not. Like you just kind of suck it up and do it, and eventually become indifferent to it. Or for me, like mentally, I put myself on autopilot. So I've got podcasts going on all day long, or I'm listening to music and trying to visualize it. So if I'm composing a new piece or something, and then that's just kind of in the forefront of your mind as you're going through this activity. You have to do every single day of your life, and you will likely do for the rest of your life. You just learn how to all right, just execute this script that I have firmly installed in my mental firmware, because something I've done over and over again. It just needs to be done. Like, I don't think when I
Right.
go to the gym, I kind of zone out, and then all of a sudden I'm walking home like, oh, I felt good. I'm glad I did that today. But I've been doing that for 20 years now.
Yeah, it's like, oh, your normal diet, you just eat. Never mind. I was gonna go off for like 5 minutes on some shit, and I just don't have the energy right now. I'm gonna have
We can
plenty
get
of energy, just not
tangential.
for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we can pop to the next trait. So we hit on sense of adventure. We hit on this one kind of too. He's an introvert.
Ish.
So
I don't
ish,
necessarily
yeah.
completely believe that. Yeah.
Like, I've always called myself a true introvert, but recently I've gotten to the point where I like going in social situations. It actually energizes me. But I think that's because as an introvert, I've looked introspectively enough. I've built my core and done enough work to where once I hit, and it's really hard for introverts to do. Once like, hey, I'm gonna start putting myself out there. I'm gonna go out there and
Mhm.
and shine my light on the world and see what bright mirror doesn't shine itself back to me. I know that's probably not the best metaphor, but you know, we're trying here,
Whatever.
me, myself, and I.
Fuck it.
But you get to the point where you're like, oh, like when I go out in social situations, people are generally like 99.9% positive to interacting with me, and I get to learn new things and experience new things, and it's really adding a lot of depth. It's adding a lot of depth and enjoyment to my life. Okay, I'm going to lean more into this, but at the end of the day, after social interactions, I'm exhausted. But I'm starting to get to the point where I'm enjoying more and more social interactions, and so I don't know if I'm like an extroverted introvert or like this. This definition says something along the lines of introverts prefer quiet solitude over crowds of people. That's definitely me, but he can easily fit into a social group. And then I'd add to that you can not only fit into a social group, but people will be surprised and they're like, you're introverted. Like, a lot of people meet me in real life. They're like, you're actually quite quiet. I'm like, well, yeah, I don't have to talk for 3 hours by myself on YouTube to an audience where I just see
Yeah, right. No kidding.
I see words on a screen in a chat. There's not that human to human element there, so you gotta kind of fill the space or fill the air. But in real life, a lot of times I just sit down and I observe, and then as I figure out kind of the dynamic of the group, then I start to insert myself. Or sometimes maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stay silent and wait for someone else to open me up, and then kind of shift the energy towards my direction. So I think
mean,
there's a degree of that. As far as like, if you're Sigma, you're introverted. I think maybe you lean towards the side of introversion, but yeah, you can definitely be extroverted.
yeah, I mean, if you're gonna call yourself a staunch Sigma, you pretty much have to be the quiet, strong, silent type. But I mean, this isn't the whole point isn't to convince anybody in this situation to identify as this. It's just a matter of understanding what it is, and that if you have these traits, there's nothing wrong with you. At the end of the day, you can be the strong, silent type, or you can be a fucking Sigma male 95% of the time, and then if you go out, you can flip a light switch and go into social mode. That's more my thing. I mean,
I did too.
dude, I have
I flip the
headphones on.
switch, but I decide when I do that.
I have to deliberately take out my headphones so I don't get water in my ear, like because my sweating and stuff like that, because I have headphones in 99% of the time. I mean, dude, I will play a fucking video game with headphones in and not listen to the video game, because I'm not listening to the video game anyways. I'm listening to music or a podcast or something in my pocket rather than on the TV screen. But the point is you can be both. You can be anything you want to be. I think that these introverted traits. I mean, I think what this term does, or this identifier does, is give introverts more power. Because most of us at the end of the day are ambiverts in the first place. Like, I have an introverted girlfriend. She doesn't really like to talk to people. There's nothing outgoing about her.
But with the right
like
person,
99%.
there's probably a
But
part
with
of
the
her
right
that comes
person, she'll
online.
turn it
Yeah.
up. Yeah, she'll turn it up. So she's really an ambivert. I don't think there is probably people that are 100% one way and 100% the other. And I mean, you just don't see them very often one way or another. I don't think this is the rarest personality type, but I think that it's a part of everybody's personality type.
Well, it's weird because in society, I look at things from a different frame than most of the world does. But it's kind of like any spectrum, whether it's political spectrum, whether it's any spectrum at all. For example, in this case, introversion versus extroversion. People usually think it's linear. Like, okay, there's this polar extreme and this polar extreme.
Yep,
let's say you view the world that way. Most people view the world that way. Most people fall in between, but we don't realize it's actually a continuum. So like the political thing's a perfect example. Your most ardent right-wing, religious, whatever, stereotype fanatic, and your most like hardcore leftist, communist, Antifa type person on the linear spectrum, they're polar opposites. But when you look at it from a continuum, then they're actually kind of the same person. So most people fall in the middle somewhere for anything, and you can vacillate. You can go from side to side. So that's maybe a unique way, guys, if you want to start looking at the world in that sense. Like, oh, like this guy, this religious guy picketing, saying that all people of this certain class are going to go to hell because they don't view the world I do, and he's pissed off and wasting a Saturday and dragging his poor kids along with them. And then across the street, you have the polar opposite of that person, and he's protesting to like show dicks to kids in kindergarten or some stupid shit like that. These are the same people. They're the same exact people. They just have different ideas they've chosen to put in their head or chosen to make a part of their belief system, their mental firmware, and then they're just projecting that out on the universe. So that's a unique way to kind of look at those types of topics. And I believe extroversion versus introversion falls into more of a continuum rather than a spectrum.
That's interesting. I don't necessarily understand the portion, like the I don't understand how it's a circle, but that's just probably more reference point than anything.
For example, in the dating topics, I said that with love and hate, another example. Like they're not polar opposites on a spectrum. It's a full circle. Like you can't hate someone unless you at some point love them. The polar opposite of hate, or the polar opposite of love, is not hate. It's or the logical opposite. There's a difference between polar and logical opposite for any of you lawyers or else.
Opposite of love is indifference.
Yeah, exactly. Like what's the opposite of water? Well, it's not dry. It's just, I'm sorry. What's the opposite of wet? It's not dry. It's just not wet. So, so like love and hate kind of fall on that continuum too. You can't really hate someone unless there is a lack of love there that you desire. Like if someone's spewing hate at me and I'm like, who's that fucking? Like I don't pay attention half the time. Like I'm just indifferent. I could care less.
So what would be the opposite of extroverted? If it's on a continuum.
Non-verted. Well, and it's not the polar opposite. They're just kind of checkpoints or different degrees of separation on the continuum.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Like a 180 degree separation.
I'll go
so
on a
I'm trying to say is there's one there's 1 degree of separation between love and hate. 1 degree of separation between far right-wing person and far left-wing person. Like at the end of the day, they're all kind of the same people. They just embody different belief systems. So extroversion versus introversion, it's more kind of like an energy type thing. But a lot of times, you know, the people on the polar ends of that spectrum or continuum could essentially be the same person at the end of the day.
Sure. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I got a little out there. Let's bring it back. Sup, Jaron? Everyone moving to California? Shit, dude, no one's moving to California. Everyone I knew in California is either left thinking about leaving or is kind of stuck there. And they again, probably fall into the camp of thinking about leaving. But there's a lot of homeless moving there. I mean, they keep putting out these social programs. I don't like to get too political because I really don't care anymore. It just pisses me off. But I lived there for a good while, and you see society declining right in front of you, and you're like, all right, well, losers are moving here, and people that make money and produce jobs, they're leaving. So again, you can think whatever you want politically, but just look at reality on reality's terms. And like, well, what's going to happen when all the people pulling the wagon are saying fuck this, and they're not pulling the wagon anymore? And then the people that are dragging the wagon behind, guess what? That wagon's not moving forward anymore. In fact, it'll start going the other way if you're not careful. And I think California's already hit that critical mass where there a lot of people are leaving. What's good, gents? Huds, man, I don't know if you saw me reply to you in the chat. You might be on audio only or putting this passively on the background, but dude, definitely get up here if you're still around. Jake Bakes, that's a cool name. Rich Cooper said it best: women need frames. And yeah, and you know what? I think everyone needs frame. Guys need a framework too. And I think a lot of guys are kind of wandering lonely through reality, trying to figure out this world on their own, but they don't really have a frame of reference, which is fine. You see that there's some comments here about like religious texts, whatever. There's always that kind of self-discovery phase, like more indigenous is the term they use in Mexico, but like native roots, the Aborigines, they do their walkabouts. A lot of tribal type societies, they have some kind of ritual, like, you know, you're lost in the desert metaphorically to find yourself, or like, you know, for you Bible people, the same thing. These archetypes of human development, they exist in every culture, religion, philosophy, whatever you're into throughout recorded human history forever for a reason. So a lot of guys are kind of like that. They're wandering the desert trying to figure it out. And I had a really smart kid one time rent a room for me in California, 18-year-old kid, and he was really Christian, and he like a true Christian, because you get a lot of jack Christians in California, like horn it up on Saturday and then Sunday she's repenting. But like this kid was a true Christian, And he told me at one point, at that time I was in my early 30s. He's like, you talk like you're trying to find yourself, but you ever realized you probably already knew who you were all along? And I'm just like, oh, damn it. I heard that from an 18-year-old. Like, why didn't anyone tell me that when I was 18? I would have saved a decade of doing dumb shit that was really not congruent with who I
Searching
was.
for something that's not there.
Exactly. But this kid was grounded. He was rooted, came from a more conservative type culture. Again, if you're more liberal, that's cool. If you're more conservative, you're cool. But a lot of times, I didn't learn this until I moved to Texas and lived there for a few years. A lot of these conservative people have their shit together. They've got a framework. They have a model that works, whether you disagree with it or agree with it, but you need to install your own framework, or at least have some sort of, rather than being your fractured, splintered self, have some sort of integration, all of the odd pieces of the puzzle. Like, okay, well, I'm a hippie and I'm a cowboy and I like sunshine, but I also like this. Or I grew up on the country, but I like living in Mexico and I play guitar too. What? Like all these weird pieces that seem like they don't go together. We'll make them come together for you. And then that paste or that glue that adheres everything, that is what makes someone structured or provides you a framework. So whether that's a religion, an ideology, I always say be careful falling like wholesale swallowing pills or ideologies, or a pledge an allegiance to political camps, or being like a dogmatist in any sort of religion, philosophy, whatever it is that you believe in. But start to work on yourself. Get that mental. I use the term like internal operating system or mental firmware. Start to get that together, and then you might still be wandering the desert, but at least you have a direction. You know where you're going, and you know what you're looking for, and you'll realize when you find it. So that helps a lot of guys out in terms of guys.
Yeah,
that don't
clean your own room before you go trying to tell other people to clean theirs.
Exactly. Yeah, Jordan Peterson said it best.
Yeah,
Let's see.
that's where I stole it from.
Frame, rather, they need a moment or two of suffering, or they get bored. Going more to like the emotional or energy thing, like old school guys used to say like, Jay, you got to. This is what they said. This is not what I think. But Jay, you got to keep them hose on them toes, and that's really about like you can't be monotone, you can't be dry, you can't be unidimensional all the time. You need to start exploring these other areas of your personalities and your interests. And guys ask me all the time, how do I tell better stories? How do I become more interesting? Like really lean into these desires. I had a guy the other day saying, hey, I've always wanted to play the electric guitar. I think I'm going to scratch that itch and go buy it. I was like, dude, just fucking do it. Like, why are you even asking me? If you've always wanted to do it and now is the opportunity to do it, fucking lean into that. And even if you're not the next Eddie Van Halen, who cares? It will make you a more dynamic person. Parts of your mental structures, the way you view the world or interpret the world or perceive the world, they'll start to come online, and it'll add dimension, it'll add depth to this human experience, and that's what makes you more interesting. And then usually, like I said, going back to the frame thing, have a solid internal core credo system framework put together, and then start to expand out from it with these weird little oddities or quirkities of your personality, being legal, moral, ethical, all that stuff. But there's no harm in playing the electric guitar. Pick it up and do it, and then undo those thoughts from your mom, your dad, your family, or spouse, or whatever. I don't have enough time, or it'll make a lot of noise, or I might bug the neighbors, or I'm not any fucking good. Like eliminate all that, and then lean into it, and do that for 30 days. See what doesn't happen to you. And guys, I'm just using the guitar as an example. That's what I did, but and that's what this guy asked me about. But whatever that looks like for you, let's see. I think, like Moses in the Bible, I am not a good speaker. I am Mojo Senior. Yeah. And by the way, thanks for coming up again too, guys. Again, the join links pinned in the top of the chats there, so feel free to come on up if you feel so inclined to do so. Nick G, I'm in the same way when I'm around people. I don't speak unless I really need to say something, even though it's too honest most of the time, and people get offended. Yeah, normally, I know it's not the topic, but I cover a lot of these topics. So, like, I'm not a big like night game guy or nightclub guy. I've always hated nightclubs, but I've learned to like them and
Jaron froze.
lose myself. Both of our screens went off for a second on my end. But I've never been weird. Like in certain nighttime environments, I really quite enjoy it. And that's if I'm there with like a good group of solid buddies. We're going out there for our own company, like never make, we're going to go out there and get chicks, bros. Like when you're younger and you do that, you're clutching the beer to your chest and you're looking around like, all right, the chicks can smell you sniffing them out. Like, oh, I'm gonna go talk to this one. Like, oh, she blew me out. Why not? Like, I don't play that game anymore. So I do the table service, usually get like a VIP service, have a couple other guys. Turns out once you split it, usually ends up being about the same that if you all went separate, went to the bars anyways, and you're buying people drinks and stuff. So I'll do like the bottle service, like table service type game. And a lot of times I'll just kind of sit there, hang out. You'll see tables around you, other people in the club, they're trying to play the game. a lot of times I just sit there and, you know, just start having a good time with my group of friends. And eventually you'll pique someone's interest. Like, who's that guy? You know, what's he up to? He breaks the mold. He's not following the flow of everyone else. He's not doing what is expected for someone like him to do in this situation. And eventually people will kind of start trickling to the table, and usually they're really cool people. So that's why Mojo made the point earlier. He's like, I don't know if I'm alpha or not, but I'm attracting alphas in my life, and I have beautiful women that love and respect me, and they're giving me everything I could have ever wanted in that relationship department of my life. So that's kind of the way I do the like the night game type thing. Like, yeah, just be a little quiet, be cool, be calm, collected, smooth operator, and the type of people that you're looking for, you don't even have to be looking for them. The right type of people just kind of find their way to you is something I'm starting to notice.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, one more comment.
I haven't night gamed in like 5 years, so I don't really have much of a comment.
I realize now that I was never doing it right when I was younger. Like I don't really game at all anymore. I just kind of do whatever I want to do, and then if a cute chick, you know, enters my sight line and she's feeling my vibe, then, you know, we'll make it happen. Jake, that's so damn true. I spent a long time trying to figure out which box I belong into, but now I'm comfortable with one foot in a bunch. I enjoy the variety of life. Yeah,
100%.
That's exactly it. It's like those Venn diagrams when you see like the 3 circles in the middle circle, they all overlap. Well, you can have that with an infinite number of circles, and that's what makes you a dynamic person. What a lot of people try to do is, again, they do this in diets too. Or here's a thing, like the fat to fit topic the other day. Oh, dude, like I'm natty, and like people ask me questions when I touch on these topics, like, hey, what does it mean to be natty? And am I natty? I use creatine. I'm like, dude, the fact that you care about whether you're natty or not, that's a stupid fucking discussion. No one's natty. Like, all of our food has GMOs in it. All of this shit's processed. It's all distilled down to its core basic molecular levels by PhD scientists, and then put back together to trick your brain into thinking it's nourishment when it's not. Like, what are you talking? There's no such thing as natty. You don't live on the Serengeti. You're not tracking down gazelles and fucking throwing spears at them. You're not in Panama climbing up pineapple trees or coconut tree to cut a fucking coconut down and get some non-polluted water out of it. Like, no one's natty anymore, and who really cares? But people fall into these broader boxes. Like, I'm a vegan, I'm a pescatarian, and they lead with it too. You'll see this on dating profiles. They lead with it with these labels. And you're like, hey, I'm fucking me, but I fit into a bunch of these areas. For example, I recently started saying like I sing and I play guitar. I would have never considered myself a musician before, but like I can hang with real musicians, so I'll start saying that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to wholesale go into that box and make that my entire identity, or even within that broader box, musician. Like, okay, well, are you a singer? What parts do you sing? How do you do this? My vocal coach told me the other day, she's like, hey, you write music, okay, but you're really good at composing music. She's like, you're really good at taking something that's already written and making it better. And I'm like, I never realized that before. So like, do I use that word, the composer, to subscribe me? I've never published or composed a hit, but
I don't think you have to. It's just something that you do.
Yeah, but so it's like I'm saying, guys, like, be very careful of these broader labels and start to dial yourself in. Like, okay, well, let's say I'm good at composing music. Well, I technically compose every area of my life, and that translates to other areas. So you don't have to fit yourself or squeeze yourself into one box. Like, I am 100% bought into this ideological camp wholesale, and therefore I shall form or craft my entire identity around this. No, don't do that. That's where a lot of guys get led astray, leading to that lost in the desert example, and
really
brings a lot of unhappiness into people's lives. Yeah, I'm going to take a bio break if you want to comment on that.
Well, I deal with
drink my Dr. Pepper, BRB.
Hold on just a second.
I thought I saw a slight bit of annoyance on your face. Like, was it the cat?
No, it was just the door opening. I fall into that camp, as far as not fall into that camp, but I talk to people every day who fall into that camp with the sober crowd and the carnivore crowd, because all carnivores think you can't eat a fucking tortilla every 2 weeks or a month, or have a cookie every once in a while. Otherwise, you can't be a carnivore anymore. And I mean, the sober crowd, obviously, if you drink, you're not sober. So I guess I can fuck all on that one. But the carnivore crowd is really funny, because they like to argue they like to argue as to whether butter is carnivore or honey is carnivore or fruit is animal based or whatever, because now we're seeing this this rise in the animal based crowd and not necessarily the carnivore crowd. I consider myself animal based because I eat a bunch of fucking steak and eggs and shit. But the reality is, yesterday I went to a golf tournament and I ate a pile of fucking tacos and a bunch of garlic knots, and I had a really good time doing it. And I never even thought about it. I didn't think about what camp I fell in that regard. But people do that it's like a sociological survival mechanism. Like they think that they've got to identify with something so that they can like fit into a crowd, because they don't want to be alone, because most people are uncomfortable being alone, rather than just embracing the fact that you are fucking alone. You live your life by yourself. So did you hear what I was saying about the carnivore crowd?
Yep, I just put it on mute so you didn't hear me tinkling in the little boys' room over
that would have
there.
been epic. That would have been a clip by itself. Me making
like a South Park episode. Whenever someone's in the bathroom, they just go over the fucking top of it. It's so funny.
Yeah. I did see it.
So
I see it
funny.
especially, dude. I see this exact point as far as like following the crowd, and like specifically in the diet space. And I was talking about carnivore, but like it's in the vegan space. A pescatarian. I don't know anybody who's like, oh, I'm a radical pescatarian, but I know vegans are that way.
Most
Carnivores are that
pescatarians
way.
will eat a steak if I put it in front of them. They're like, well, I prefer to be more fish, but you don't want to go all in everything. I think it's the point where we're trying to get to. You can be a dynamic human being. Like
so
you said,
that's
animal based. I'm animal based too, but yeah, I like to eat shit that falls outside of that category.
I
From
would
time to
love a
time.
fucking pizza.
But
Let's roll.
I'm like
you know?
90% of the way. Yeah, I'm like 90% eat the same things every day. Just lean
Look,
protein sources, healthy fat sources, and then minimal carbs.
instead of using the diet as a fucking tool, like it's supposed to be.
Everything's a tool in life,
Instead of-
guys. Just use
Yeah,
them
it's
as you
not
need
a
them.
fucking ideology. It's a diet, for Christ's sake. Like if you eat that way, great. Shut up. Like we don't care. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that if I eat fucking 15 eggs or 8 pounds of steak and then go have a pizza. Like more power to me. More power to you.
My vocal coach used this metaphor like an hour before I got on this stream, and she's like, "Do you know Dora the Explorer?" I'm like, "I'm a little bit older than you, sweetheart." She's super sweet. She's like 19 years old. I'm like, "Yeah, no, I don't fucking know Dora the Explorer." And my nieces and nephews are so young. There's like new kid shit out that they watch. Like I've never seen it, and she was saying something. We were working on developing some new vocal techniques, like things that the untrained ear won't recognize, but the trained ear, like as you start getting better in certain areas, like okay, here's what the pros do. Like here's what takes you to the next level. Like that one little extra thing Tom Brady does to like set him apart from everyone else when you start getting to higher levels. I'm not saying I'm at that level by any means, but I'm advancing pretty quickly. It's like, all right, we're gonna start doing like some professional stuff. We're gonna start giving you some more tools. And she used the metaphor of it's like Dora the Explorer. It's like, oh shit, I'm sinking in the ocean. Oh well, what do I do? Fish, and like pulls out a little backpack and oh here's a lamp and we're gonna do this and like oh here's a fishing line or here's whatever tools are. And she's like, Jaren, these are all vocal tools. Don't develop any one of them and make that a part of your repertoire or who you are. But they're tools that are available. So like there's a lot of pollution here today. So my throat gets kind of scratchy. So there's different ways we have to reroute the air. There's different ways I have to produce notes. And she's like, hey, if you can't hit those high notes and you're not, and you're risking damaging your throat. Well, here's a technique that the pros use. And then once you learn it, then you listen to music. And like I collect records. So like I listen to a record and then all of a sudden you hear it and you never noticed it before. So that's kind of how everything in life is, especially we've been using the diet topic as an example. So like I do intermittent fasting probably most of the time, usually one meal a day, but sometimes I'm hungry during the day. Sometimes I want to have breakfast and then maybe I'm not hungry later in the day. So, but people ask me like, well, how do you define your diet protocols? Like, it's just kind of whatever I need, whenever I need it. I've done all the plans. I've tried every diet. I've been strict to them. I've tracked everything. So I know like, all right, if here's where I am physically now, and here's where I want to go, and here's the time frame. Well, what do I want that to look like? And then you use these tools you've developed over your years of gaining experience in these areas of knowledge, and you put the roadmap together based on what's going to work best for you, rather than being like, well, no, man, it's 100% paleo, or you can fuck off. Like, okay, well, that's not gonna help you in the long run. That's not gonna be sustainable at all times. Yeah, exactly. And I'm just using that as an example. My mom's actually paleo, and she makes some really bomb food. But I like nuts and
I love paleo
legumes
food
and things like that. Oh, paleo food's fantastic.
Potatoes and fruit and meat and dude, yeah, that's great.
But where I live now, like there's not a lot of paleo people. It's Mexico.
No, eat
It's
fucking tacos. Let's roll.
it's just meat and lard and corn carbohydrates. That's pretty much all it is. Like Mexican food deconstructed. Really, the corn's a carbohydrate. Maybe there's some beans on there for like texture, but that's regional too. A lot of areas of Mexico don't eat a lot of beans. Depends on where you're from. Some
That's
do
weird. I
rice,
didn't know
some
that.
don't. But the commonality there in Mexican cuisine is like it's all like a corn-based carbohydrate, which is a transportation device for protein and fat. Is the way I look at Mexican food. And it's funny when I'll have girls over and I'll cook with them, I'll deconstruct their own cuisine like fucking arrogant gringo. Deconstruct it, put it back together because I cook a lot of stuff from scratch, like absolute scratch. I'm like, well, here we have the masa. Now, what do you want to do with the masa? And like, there's different cooking techniques, and the same way talking about like deconstructionalism or using different tools to put it together. Well, when you learn how to cook, that's kind of exactly what you're doing. You have all these different tools and techniques
100%.
at your disposal, and then you figure out, okay, well, here's what I like. Maybe I have a craving for this, but I don't want to eat like a fat ass, so I'm going to deconstruct this food. I'm going to reconstruct it with healthier ingredients, and here's how I'm going to prepare it to match the texture, and then just make sure you season it right, and you're good to go. You're off to the races. But apply that model to everything in life, rather than I'm 100% in this camp, and god damn it, if you're against me, then you're a heathen or you're a barbarian or
fuck that.
whatever terms. I think those are very dangerous ways to think. And I
want a fucking pizza. I'm reading Spartan's comment. I'm reading Spartan's comment at the bottom. He said, I slammed down a pizza on Friday night and can't escape the guilt.
Ooh.
Now he makes me want a pizza because I wouldn't feel guilty for eating a pizza. And I can tell you two things about that if I can address that comment right now.
Yeah, do it.
If you feel guilty because you slammed a pizza down on Friday night, if you feel guilty because you slammed a pizza down on Friday night, you either broke a promise to yourself or you care about what other people think more than you care about what you think. Either way, it's your fucking fault. So fix it.
But in that scenario, I do that all the time. I'll go out somewhere and something looks good, and I'm just like the other night we went to a steakhouse.
That's a good question too.
And the chips and bean dip they brought us to the table. Like I had a couple of craft cocktails too. For again, like the higher level, like swill it around and taste it and all that stuff, not to get drunk. But went to a steakhouse, and like they a lot of Mexican places don't do like the chips, so they give you like a couple of saltine crackers and like a little assortment of salsas. But this place had a really bomb bean dip and the chips. So I knew that my macros were gonna be fucked for the day. So we just sat there, we had a couple of cocktails, and we went to like 3 baskets of chips and the dip, and then I wasn't hungry for steak. I came home, took some protein scoops, and I realized I wasn't have the cleanest carb sources. The chips were fried. It was likely in vegetable oil. So what you do in this situation, again, another tool, just fast, just do an extended fast. Okay, I ate enough on Friday to cover Friday and Saturday. Saturday, I'll have something light, hit my protein before bed. I call those like fat flush days for guys who have downloaded my fat trackers or guys that are in my groups and like they know this eating methodology that I talk about from time to time on the channel. So Saturday, eat something real light at night. Just hit the protein. It's like 800, 900, 1,000 calories max, and then that intense deficit offsets that slight surplus from the day before. And then come Sunday, it's like I never had that cheat meal, So, and again, those are. But if I were to fall into like, no, I have to eat my 16 to 8 window and measure it out, well, then you're not going to live life. You're not going to enjoy it. And again, when you're alone 95% of the time, just do the small things right when you're alone with you, yourself, and me, myself, and I, you, yourself, and you. Doesn't quite work. Yeah, it doesn't quite work in the second person there. But and then just make sure that you maintain baseline or that you stay on track. But like Steve said, definitely don't feel guilty about it. We're humans. Yeah, go for it.
While we're on this, he's got 2 comments down there that kind of that relate, and I would love to get to those and then go back to the Sigma thing since that's what we're supposed to be talking about. We could talk about diet for fucking weeks, guys, like 100%, but that's not what we're here for today. And we can have this conversation in a separate stream if you want to. We just try to keep it as close to the subject as we humanly possible. We do it too. We're fucking guilty. We're so guilty of throwing everything off, but we've got to keep ourselves on some reasonable plane.
Yeah, well, it extended largely from the point of that you don't fall 100% in the ideological camp. Use life as tools, and the larger point is that a lot of Sigmas, they view the world in those terms. So as you're structuring yourself, make sure. My mind naturally does that. It drills down to the most minute detail, and then it brings it back up to the surface level, or it extrapolates it to the point of absurdity, and then brings it down to the single most point of simplicity. And that
absolutely.
work well. So yeah, we naturally have a tendency to do that in the conversation. So let me cruise through these comments. Don DeMarco, ego investments create falsified identities. I slammed down a pizza on Friday night, can't escape the guilt. Yeah, that's a comment you mentioned. How do you deal with cheat meals and diet guilt? We kind of touched on that. And then how do you discern actual hunger
A
from
little bit.
emotional hunger?
I think that the first question, how do you deal with cheat meals and diet guilt? Try a diet that you're not going to feel guilty if you cheat.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be perfect. Like that's what I was kind of getting at earlier. Is like I eat like 95% carnivore. I would say 90% realistically. But I'll go out and have a non-alcoholic beer, eat some tacos, fucking cheeseburger if I'm feeling it, lasagna. I had some garlic knots on the 10th tee. Like literally, I didn't get like, guys. This is you're not going to like if. First off, I love meat and I can eat meat 3 meals a day forever, all the time, no matter what. But it took a lot of work to get there, right? So if I'm going to be less of a dickhead about it, I just don't consider them cheat meals. If you stop putting labels on the shit, like you're not going to eat perfectly. You need to like you're going to have if you feel like you have to guilt yourself out of eating something, you should probably reconsider your relationship with food in the first place. That's the first thing. Like if you feel like, oh, diet, I have guilt. Like what kind of diet are you on where you're fucking torturing yourself and you feel guilty for having food? Like you slammed a whole pizza on Friday. Cool. I mean, you can nobody cares besides you. That's kind of the thought is like, awesome. I've done that a fucking million. I've done that sitting next to Jaron 50 fucking times. 100,000 calories worth of pizza.
Oh, that bar tab. Where was that in San Diego? TGIF. It's like
$130
of unlimited appetizers.
between
Yeah.
the two of us.
And it was like, what was the promo? Like 15 or $20 per person or something. Yeah, we were just
It was 20. It was. I think it was 20. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it was 25. It was $20 or $25 unlimited appetizers, and we ate like $140, $130 worth. The receipt might be on your Facebook still.
Yeah, I think I posted it before, and I'm thinking it might be even higher. Although that was like 10 years ago, so inflation hadn't hit too hard yet. But
yeah, I'm sure it's probably fucking $40 a person at this point.
But in general, like when it comes to your diet, a lot of people think in terms of day to day. You want to look over the longer term. So I used to always tell myself, like, oh, I'm a former fat kid. And then when I hit an age where I'm like, I've been fit longer than I'm fat. Like I don't carry the fat identity. Like literally, my body doesn't know how to be obese anymore. It's just been so long that even if I wanted to, I would really have to work at it to put on 100 pounds because it's just like the last 20 years I've been more health conscious. So
yeah,
in terms of that, too. Like, but along those 20 years, there's been like 3-month periods where I let myself go. There's been 8-month periods where I'm just jacked as fuck and I'm jet setting around the world. And there's been anything and everything all in between. But over the long term, the core common elements are that the diet's healthy. It's based in protein. It's based more on animal products, low inflammation, not a lot of fiber. And then what you see now is as a result of that over the long term. Yes, I had the basket, a couple baskets of chips and bean dip on Friday, and I might do a pizza at some point this week, but the rest of the time I'm either not eating or when I eat, it's just to hit my bare minimum protein and nutrition requirements, and those offset each other. So at the end of the month, I'm exactly where I need to be. Although one day maybe I had 7,000 calories and there's 2 days I didn't eat at all. But at the end of the month, if you want to look at it in monthly terms, a lot of times I'll do it in weekly terms. Okay, just make sure that the account's on track or the balance is on track at the end of the week. So if you're going into a deficit to lose weight, well, make sure that whatever your check-in point is, for me, it's usually Wednesdays, actually. Wednesday to Wednesday is easier, is like my weigh-in point to my check-in point. And as long as I'm on track, it doesn't really matter how I structure my meals the rest of that time. And realize again, too, like fasting is a tool. You're like, oh, I ate way too much. Well, then just don't eat. A lot of people think too, like, I'm going to die. I'm like, bro, you're 35 pounds overweight. You're not going to die if you don't eat. That's exactly what your body fat's there for. Like that is a little fun feature nature designed for us. And it's there to help you, tap into your stored energy.
The next thing is how to discern actual hunger from emotional hunger. I don't get emotionally hungry. So, I mean, if I'm emotionally hungry, it's more like, oh, fuck, I'm hungry. I should probably eat. Because I've trained myself over 3-4 years of kind of going back and forth with the diet that I chose, that I choose when we eat. My body doesn't. My body can tell me I'm hungry all I want. I sit around for 3 hours with a grumbling stomach all the time.
Most of the
if
time
you
I'm
can't
not
go,
hungry and I have to force
yeah,
myself to eat. And then there's
drink
days where
water,
I'm
dude. Try to
really,
drink
really
water.
hungry.
I would say try to drink water. That's probably a start. I would say drink 16 ounces of water before you even consider eating. If you're on a diet and you're trying to cut calories naturally, if you can just extend when you don't eat, right? Like 2 or 3 hours, you tend to take in less calories. It's just kind of like it's a natural thing. If you give yourself less time to eat, you're not going to eat
Mineral
much.
water like Diet 7 Up, like mineral water with lime or Diet 7 Up if you
That's
want
actually a
something a
good
little
one
on the
too.
sweeter side. I've found
Yeah.
the carbonation gives me the sensation of fullness too, because there's like gas in your gut. Like, I don't like being gassy, but it'll trick you into thinking you've taken in a lot more than you have.
If I'm fasting, if I do like a 24, 48, whatever hour fast, and I'm hungry when I go to bed, I slam 2 of them. I'll hit up 2 carbonated waters, whatever, or a bottle if it's a liter, and just murder that thing before I lay down. And I'll burp like 50 times. But by the time the stomach, the bubbles kind of descend or whatever that word is in your stomach, it'll actually like you'll be asleep. You'll probably sleep like, I mean, the first time if you go to bed hungry, I go to bed hungry all the time now, and it doesn't really make a difference. But if you go to bed hungry for the first few times, you may or may not sleep as well. You probably won't get as much REM sleep. But when you're training yourself to do this is you'll hear me say this a million times. This is a muscle. You're just
Yep.
training your mind to take over. Like you're training you control your mind. Your mind controls your body. So ultimately, it's just the decisions you make. If you've got a lot of weight to lose, like dude, I just lost fucking 50 pounds. I just lost it. I can tell you in real time nearly how to do this. If you've got excess weight to lose, skip a fucking meal. Doesn't matter what you eat, just skip a meal. I mean, it does matter what you eat, but just keep it simple for now. Like,
Yep.
skip a meal. Be hungry for a bit. Go get some Mountain Valley sparkling water or some shit.
Yep, it's all about
Like,
balance. So again, at the end of the week, as long as you're in that caloric deficit, then yeah, maybe one day you eat way too much, and then 2 days you just hit your protein. But as long as you're hitting your numbers in the longer term increments, then you'll be okay. You'll be on track. You want to look at
Jake,
overall trend. You want to look at trends over a longer period of time, and not worry about the spikes so much. And I can pop in the link in the description, but I'll give you an example. Or you know what, Steve? Here, you're gonna say, and I'll just show a visual real quick. Of what
I'm just looking at Jake's comment. Training yourself to be able to go to bed hungry. Do you suggest just chugging water for the first while? Then I don't necessarily think you should like your body can only process so much water. Somewhere between like 12 and 20 ounces an hour or some shit. So I wouldn't say like I've done this a long time, and I used to get up out of bed and before I did anything in the day, I would drink enough water to where I was like slightly nauseous, and then it would go away, and I would just be 50, 60 ounces of water into the day, but it didn't really do anything for me, right? It just made me nauseous for like 5 minutes. That being said, I suggest getting sparkling water because the carbonation bubbles will fill your stomach up to some degree. It will trick your mind into thinking that you ate to some degree, and I still do it. So like, and I've gone to bed hungry probably 300 or 400 times. So I still go that route with it just because, I mean, as much as we can all act tough, it's fucking tough to go to bed when your stomach's grumbling. It really, really is. And it's even harder to fall asleep unless you have something to fill it up. So if you're a guy who's just like trying to drop fat as quickly as possible, carbonated water or unbuttered, unbuttered unsalted popcorn as like that works too. That fills your stomach up pretty well, and it'll give you a chance to just pass out.
So
But
guys,
don't do this perpetually. It's not always good for you.
What I have on the screen right now is kind of what I was talking about.
Jesus
So
Christ,
this was my first 90-day cut where I was like, I'm gonna get a 6-pack, damn it. Where you need 10, roughly for men, it's like 10% body fat or lower. So I started a bit higher, got these numbers based on my DEXA scan. I've got videos on the channel of how to do this if you want to go the DEXA scan route, and then I have links to this. You plug in your results and then put in your goals, and it'll just spell out where you should be. So like for caloric allowance, you'll see at this point, so like the cheat meals aren't necessarily a bad thing. So on this diet plan on Sundays, looks like I went a little higher. Monday, I do a fat flush day. Tuesday, higher. Usually I train like legs or like more compound movements that day. Fat flush day. And then every day was in a deficit, but I'd alternate the caloric intake. And then as you get more advanced, you can actually cycle your carbohydrates too. So again, these are all tools you develop. And then here you'll see like days, okay, I allotted myself 2,300 Oh, where is it? Yeah. So this is what I ate. This is a deficit I was in, but I wasn't always on every day. Some days I was over, some days I was under. But I just tracked. Okay, like I
Question.
tracked my total. Yeah. What's up?
How much lean body mass did you accumulate in while doing this data sheet that you got here?
For this one, I did this cut right. I think I lost like 1.5 pounds of lean body mass, and again, I have a video on it that breaks down like my full 90-day cut
Oh,
where I
okay.
went from
Yeah.
where I went from 20% body fat, which when a lot of guys lose a lot of weight, that's usually where they land around like the 18 to 21% body fat range. I've got videos on my channel too where I break that all down, but there are different considerations to go from 20% body fat to 10% body fat. I did it this one time. I've never gotten over 15% past then, but like I kind of fluctuate, between the lower teens or upper single digits. So I've done this time and time again. I don't like track it or anymore. I just kind of know in my head, but this is what this looks like. So there are days you're going to be off. That's fine. But what you look at here, make sure it's on the screen. And looks like I already am zoomed in. So this is what I was talking about. You want to look at the trend line. So it looks like I weighed in at about 212 or so. I think I eventually landed at 184 once I hit my goal. So and then every data point here, this green line, these are daily weigh-ins, or these are like, and that there's an
Looks
effect
like you had a
between
couple
like,
cheat days in there.
Yep, had quite a few cheat days. But you'll also notice that a lot of times, I call it the whoosh effect. There's not a lot written on this in the area of fat loss.
Yeah,
But a lot of times when you have these
happened to
cheat
me
days,
too.
your metabolism will down regulate. You want to re-up regulate it by throwing all this shit at it because your body's in a weak state. It's in a weakened state. It's in a catabolic state. So all of a sudden you throw a surplus at it. It's like, holy shit, when's it like? We don't know when the next time we're going to eat again is going to be. And it does different things with those calories and carbohydrates. It refills your glycogen stores. It re-up regulates your metabolism. It brings it kind of back online. It may store some of it in the form of fat, but it's a negligible amount. And then all of a sudden you fast a full day again. And you'll see that a lot of these peaks in terms of my cheat days are followed by these big valleys here. And then
that's kind
so
of how I just treat my
so it's
random.
not linear. The diet I constructed for myself, if I followed it to a T, that's what this trend line should have looked like. But it looks like I was under it. But some days I was well over it, and then I was under it a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I ended up hitting my goal right when I needed to. So that's what fat loss, that's what cutting really looks like if you were to break it down like from a data science standpoint. And that was my best attempt at doing that. Again, this is something I have installed in my head, so I don't really think about it too much anymore.
I don't have a trend line for my weight loss because it would be embarrassing. Just saying.
But again, like we use the metaphor of tools, that was a system I had to create for myself. And then once I have it firmly installed, now that's just a tool. Like, okay, I want to be jacked for the beach in 3 weeks. I've done that before. That's what that looks like. So, obviously 3 weeks would be later on because I don't allow myself to go as high in body fat as I used to. So I'm always like 2 or 3 weeks out from being jacked. Or if I want to go the other way, if I need to be like really strong, or if I'm going to maybe not be eating as much or be taking on a lot of emotional stress, I'll put on a bit of weight because I know my body, like when I get in certain energy, wavelengths, there could be days where I don't eat, if I'm really fucking hustling. So you prepare for that.
That happens to me all
do a
the time.
surplus.
I didn't even realize that I have a tendency to go, like, it's funny, people talk about, oh, how do you not guilty eat food? I don't have food guilt because I don't fucking care about food. Like, and I have in my life cared about food before.
It's just energy.
So
Jake, training yourself to be able to go to bed hungry. Do you suggest just chugging water for the first while? Then,
yeah, I kind of answered that already.
Yeah, you want your fluid intake up too. And then if you're doing extended fast or like any sort of keto, then make sure your electrolytes are there. At Jake, with all due respect, man, you just got to man up and go through discomfort. Like Tate says, it should be hard. Yeah. What's always say? Hunger is fat leaving the body. Because I used to have these affirmations, these refrains in my head when I got my 6-pack the first time. And again, usually I'm like 2 or 3 weeks away from having a 6-pack at any given time, but I do like to live life a bit, and I don't want to be that disciplined all the time. But one of them is hunger is fat leaving your body, and then another one is, I believe Audrey Hepburn or one of those golden era actresses said something along the lines of nothing tastes better than feeling skinny. For guys, I modify that, like nothing tastes better than feeling lean or looking sexy or whatever. So So if those refrains help you out, fucking go for it. If not, then throw it out with probably 95%
Yeah,
of the
do whatever
stuff I
fuck you
say.
want. This isn't medical advice. Just saying.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, not a doctor. Dark Knight.
Not a doctor.
I was 280 pounds a year ago. I watched John Bulldog's video on every other day intermittent fasting, implemented it. Now I'm ripped at 205 pounds at 6'1". So yeah, at peak fatness, I was 185. You're a bit taller than me. So usually I'm ripped like I'm at like 194 and a half now. So I'm getting into that lean territory where like veins are starting to pop when I got to pump and stuff. So I think so like you're probably about like I am, assuming you have a good amount of lean muscle mass on you. But yeah, like, and a lot of times too, you don't have to build that much muscle. You just need to not be fat. Like don't blur out your natural definition and then just maintain.
You could fucking put 5 pounds of, that's what people don't realize. Like when I told you the other day that I looked in the mirror and I was like, holy shit. It's like, once you get rid of all the fat, you put 5 pounds of muscle on, you look like you're on steroids.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking crazy.
And that topic can segue us back to the next point. So the Sigma male, what are we talking about?
Right.
We're talking about Sigma males. They're
I know
comfortable
we
in their
go
own
on
skin.
diet, but yeah.
But diet's all an extension of this, guys. Like, again, if you want to control your universe, be the architect of your own world and write your own story, then you should be able to control what you put in your mouth and what your body looks like.
Yeah,
I
that's
know
kind of what I was going to
sounds really
get at,
arrogant to guys that haven't developed these mental frameworks to like, oh,
I don't
like
give a fuck
I
if
can
it
be
sounds
anyone I want to
arrogant or
be,
not,
but
it's true.
But it is true. Anyone I know who's fit, they've gone through that process. And like
how the fuck are
like
you
Dark
gonna?
Knight said, you just got to do it. Just learn how to
Yeah.
retrain your brain.
How the fuck are you going to control anything in your life? You can't control what you put in your mouth. Like, really? Like, you don't have any business doing anything else until you can fucking figure out how to stop putting shit in your face.
Oh, I had
long enough to be fit.
I had someone send me a text message. Was it today or yesterday or within the last couple of days? Recently, like, hey, met with a group of guys. Talked about kind of what you're doing business wise, Jaron. They'd be interested in meeting you. And it was a table full of like fat, schlubby, out of shape, just beaten down, depressed looking guys. I'm like, dude, no thanks. Like, oh, you're not even gonna talk to them? Like, no, like I don't want to work with people like that. Like, they're okay, cool. They have money and maybe that'll help me get some of my projects off the ground, but I don't want to be around people like that because you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with, and I don't want that shit pulling me down. Ideally, not maybe if it was one of them and they like paid me like an ongoing coaching fee or something. Like, all right, bro, CEOs usually can get their shit together quickly. Hey, bro, we're gonna get your shit together in 90 days or less. This is what that looks like. Then yeah, but like I don't want to be a part of a group of people like that because it sounds terrible to say, but when you look at someone that's let themselves go so much, that means that their internal framework, it's not all put together. They're not all there, and I don't want. Like the being overweight thing, it's very, very clear. It's like that manifests itself in the physical. They have so little or such wanton disregard for their personal health. It's like, what else, what other areas are they lacking in their life? I don't like, there's going to be some holes in the business. Sorry guys. But if you look like absolute slop and shit, you're not operating at 100% optimization, and that's going to carry into every area of your life. And I don't want to be a part of that.
What's fucked about that is I would have been super, like 2 years ago, if you would have looked at me and said that, I would have felt super fucking irritated that you said it.
I think I had hinted that at you a couple of times.
Oh no, there wasn't a fucking hint. I got the hint.
It's like, bro, you can't, like, if you visit, like, if we go to Miami again, you can't be rolling out to me at a nightclub 100 pounds overweight. Like, you just can't do that. Or like, I don't want to be a part of that. Or I think I say something like, like I say it to my girls too, and there's like a borderline boundary violation. I'm like, hey, like, you can do what you want to do, but I don't associate with people like that anymore. So just going to let you know that.
Yeah,
that's where I got the word hint. Yeah, it wasn't a hint, but yeah, I think you took it pretty clear.
Yeah, definitely you're doing a good job. Yeah. Thanks, I guess.
Jaron, how long did it take you to go from 285 to 195 pounds? Took about a year. I think in like 9 months, I think I got like 70, 80 pounds off or something. And then I felt comfortable there. I was letting my body kind of reset, come into itself. And then I managed, because like you get better the more you do it. So you learn that there's some more weight you can take off. I probably got down to like 185, but like skinny fat. And then I packed on some muscle, did like a big bulk, got back up to like 225, 226 or something like that. And then for the longest time, it was just bulk and cut cycles back and forth. Again, your bulks become more efficient in the sense that you can put on more muscle quicker and for less damage on your body. You can cut faster, which means, not as much dietary restriction or, suffering or anything like that. And then your bulks get more efficient to where to where you can pack on the muscle quicker, you can cut faster, and then keep most of the muscle mass. And then kind of like that trend line, like my bulk and cut cycles got me leaner and leaner over the years. And then eventually I got to the point a few years ago, I'm like, I'm just good where I'm at. And then if I want to be ripped, I've got like a 3-week plan, 2-week plan, 1-week plan. Normally I plan ahead my travel. So I know it's coming over the horizon. Here's how I want to feel. Here's how I want to look. Here's how I want to show up. Or if I'm doing anything athletic, like here's how I need to perform. And then you plan for that. But yeah, it was like 8 months for the initial 70, 80 pounds, and then another year after that. And then now, like for example, let's say I landed at like 195 pounds. I'm 195 pounds, just a bit under that today, but my body composition is completely different because I was skinny fat. I did have to put on that lean muscle mass and then just figure out that nice balance between maximum lean muscle mass and minimum body fat without putting a bunch of shit in my system that's going to have me age or, hit the ground prematurely, so to speak. So, Stephen, anything to add? So, yeah, Sigma males are comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Go
the
ahead.
last thing you said. You kind of lost me there for a minute because I think we've had that conversation 50 fucking times at least.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
like, comfortable in your own skin for sure. What is this?
Doesn't play by anyone's own rules but his own.
Okay, yeah. So the definer is the second sentence in this. They're comfortable in their own skin, and unlike alphas, they don't need to receive outside accolades or validation. That's an interesting one to me because
let's unpack that. I like that point too.
I know a lot of, and I know this. I don't want to say I know a lot of guys. I know this about myself that previously, before I kind of figured out like my own way of going about things, that I was like that, where I needed other people to tell me that I was awesome to feel awesome about myself. And I think it came back from being a kid where it was the exact opposite. I was being told that I was a piece of shit all the time and I wasn't doing anything. And it ended up that being like a voice in the back of my head. Like that's where, the love languages, right? That's where words of affirmation, I believe, comes from, is people who didn't get, like, they lacked that for,
they need that.
A long period of their life. So they go in there, they're chasing it inside of a love relationship, like a romantic relationship. So really what's interesting about that is that could actually be considered baggage. That love language could actually be considered baggage if you really think about it. If they come from that angle with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, when you look at it from that, they all could be considered baggage. We always make fun of like, oh, what's your love language? Like sex. Or just like fucking. Like I feel closer to my chicks when I'm banging them. Like that's a joke, but
that's definitely a deflective way of answering that question.
Yeah, when chicks ask me, what's your love language? Like just banging you. He influenced
nudity.
But there's a lot of these. I'm gonna start kind of lumping some of these because a lot of them go together thematically. So the Sigma male, this article, again, I'm not gonna put it on the screen and like read through it, but it purports like he influences others, doesn't play by anyone's rules but his own, doesn't care what people think of him, and Steve, before we get to that last point you made, I forgot what it was. I wanted to unpack that, or I had something to say on that. The thought escaped me, but we'll bring it.
Oh yeah, the
validation thing.
We can come back to it if we need to.
Well, I like Caleb Jones a lot. So he lays out a framework called Alpha 1.0 versus Alpha 2.0. So that the validation element, it's like the guys that like, oh, like my girl can't be on her phone. I'm gonna put a tracker on her car. She better not be talking to any other fucking guys. Like I date hot chicks. They're gonna talk to other guys. As long as she's not fucking them, I really don't care. Like I've got so many other things that are of higher importance than babysitting some 19-year-old fucking college chick. You know what I mean?
Such a good point, actually.
And if she screws up, she screws up. So Caleb Jones puts those mindsets in like the Alpha 1.0 category. I know you guys love him. I do too. But like Andrew Tate, he throws in that category. He's like, always got to watch my chicks, or is she fucking around, or she better not cheat on me. Alpha 2.0 is like, hey, just realize humans are humans. They're going to fuck up. They're going to do whatever. Like live life kind of more in a fluid, free flowing form, and you'll be a lot happier.
Yeah,
that's removing that validation component. Like I tell you guys all the time, like you can call me whatever you want to call me. Like I'm going to turn this camera off at some point and then go live my life how I've structured it for myself and just be smiling fucking ear to ear doing it like most of the time, every waking moment of my day. And take that as you may. You can call me whatever you want to call me, but that's removing that like external validational component that a lot of guys fall into. Like, I'm alpha, but I got to let everyone know I'm alpha. Or, there's a guy the other day, like, guys, if you ever follow me on Instagram at Darren Scott, I will reach out to you and let you know, like, hey, here's my channel. If you haven't followed it, here's what I'm up to. Here's where you can join the group. Here's where you can get more of me. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm here to help you. Love to help you. Just standard kind of message to my new followers. And this one guy, yeah, this one guy came in the comments like, bro, what the fuck? I'm not a simp. I make 6 figures a year. I have a 6-pack and I'm crushing it. I'm like, okay, like, but I know you're not, because I've been there for a long time and I hang out with people that have been there for a long time, and like no one talks to strangers that way. We just don't. So no, you're not. Or like the fact that I'm like, hey man, thanks for following me. It's like I went into his house and took a shit on his rug or something. I'm like, dude, I opened my floor to ceiling fucking windows and you're just passing by looking in. I'm giving you a peek view, but if I wave at you, don't fucking lose your shit over it. That's not insulting. I'm not calling you a simp like these guys. Oh, you think I'm a simp beta fucking blue pill douche or something like that? I always make fun of those terms because
that's peacocking. You're talking about peacocking specifically.
But this one specific comment, like I said, I've dealt with a lot of retards lately. I was like, you can't proclaim yourself alpha and then follow that up by a comment that's clearly not alpha. You know what I mean? Like, bro, I'm an alpha and fucking crushing it life. What do you think I am, a simp? I'm like, dude, I'm just saying hi to a new follower. Like, fucking chill out. And then I always do this. I invite them onto the podcast. Like, hey, would love to see you in the private group. Come on the podcast. And they never, ever, ever fucking respond, which is a key indicator, guy. Like, bro, you're not alpha. Like, you don't have it together. People that are comfortable in their own skin, they don't approach the world that way. They simply don't.
No, I agree with that.
So, tangent. Yeah. So guys, be congruent in who you are. And if something I say or Steve says or whatever offends you, like if I say hi to you and you're a new follower and you flip out, like, what do you think I am, a simp? I'm like, yes. I didn't think that before. I had no idea who you were, but you made that abundantly clear that yes, you indeed are.
Obvious at that point.
Dark Knight. It's amazing how weight loss impacts the face. She's not yours. My face. She's just your turn.
I'll post my face 6 months ago versus now. That's fucking unreal. I didn't realize that I look like a goddamn chipmunk.
I've got transformation photos on my Instagram. Yeah, guys, you can see that. Let's see. Jaron, you're pink pilled. Yeah, I don't care what pill, man. Yeah, guys, get on me. I think I'm gonna start collaborating with them more. They're like in the early days of my channel, I did collabs with like Ali from Real Femme Sapien and Tallulah from Feminine Truth, and then I want to start working with Pearl too, because I want to start adding to these spaces. I think there's a lot of people out there hurting, and they go to these spaces for the entertainment value. It's like, okay, well, if I can be a little entertaining and maybe get myself in front of a new audience and start to drip some points that maybe might start to see them or allow them to see the world in different terms. Like, hey, not everything's alpha versus beta. It's not always like introversion versus extroversion. There's like, you're a unique person, but
nobody even knew what the fuck it meant. There was like a manly man, and then there was like regular dudes. Nobody knew alpha, beta, sigma, fucking whatever. Nobody knew this shit ever until somebody came online and said, "Oh, that guy's acting like a pussy. He's a beta male." Shut the fuck up. Are you calling out a beta male? You're probably a beta male. Like, you don't put people in fucking boxes. There's super nice guys out there that'll work your ass in business. Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah, and so with the pink pill thing, like I used to collaborate with those chicks in the early days of my channel, and I've done some clips recently. People are like, "Oh, you're better than this. I can't believe you do that." Like, dude, like most of the relationships I have in my life are with females. I've got a handful 100%. Of really good guy friends here. I've got like my 2 blood brothers, Steve, and like maybe 1 or 2 friends in the US that I'm like really fucking close with. But most of my day-to-day life, like tonight after this, I'll get off. I have an hour free, and then I've got a girl coming over. She's a new one, but I met her at a party and we had a nice conversation, and we're just going to continue that energy where it left off. If you guys know where I'm going, but she seems like a cool chick. She seems like she might be a part of my life for a little bit. Not saying there's an agenda or setting out any hopes or expectations. You hope it heads in that direction, and then if things naturally flow, they do, and if they don't, they don't. But so I spend a lot of time with females, so I'm like, okay, I don't mind talking to chicks about these topics. and people are like, oh, I can't believe you're doing that. You're going low. I'm like, for talking to chicks about intersexual dynamics, like that's the weirdest fucking thing to think. Again, I did spiel on it, like 15, 20 minutes ago. Go back if you're just jumping in at this point. But we talked about that. Like, don't swallow entire belief systems wholesale and package it in a pill.
Oh,
That's
dude.
kind of a dumb way to look at reality.
Half of these things are fucking circle jerks. They're just pumping everybody in the group up to be a jackass. Like, and I'm
They're
talking
people that don't have
specifically to
shit
dudes.
going on.
Well, I mean, they're again just trying to
Optimistic
identify
red
with something. Like, what are we
Mhm.
doing? What are we even talking about? Like, let's move forward. Okay, cool. Women ain't shit. Men ain't shit. Let's move.
Are you this or you that? I'm like, I am what I am, and you can
I don't
use your
fucking know,
worldview to
dude.
put labels on me, but I don't really care. And the fact that you see the world in that way means you're not at my level, and you're not going to be a part of my life. So,
Doesn't
like,
fucking matter.
yeah. So best of luck to you, bro.
Matter. I
I
don't
could care
care.
less. Like I said, my brother always says, I'll do me, you do you, which is a very polite way. It's just like, dude, fuck off. Jake, I don't know why. Yeah, a little laughy face. Have you seen the caliber of guys that call into the Michael Sartain MOA program? It's like RSD 2.0. No disrespect intended. Just an observation.
I don't even know who the fuck that is at all. So
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of content, and if I do, it's stuff I'm working on. So I'm trying to figure out how to restructure my YouTube channel. So a lot of it's like YouTube best practices. Other areas of my life, like developing some more like musical skills. Figure out the best way to practice. Things that I'm actively working on. That's what I consume YouTube wise. I normally don't consume YouTube for entertainment purposes. Life is entertaining enough on its own. You don't need someone else, trying to distract you. So. So take out the earplugs, turn off the TV, turn off the computer monitor, put your phone down, go for a bike ride, go for a walk, go for a drive, whatever your situation is, and then just take in the world without any filters. And that's entertaining enough.
Are you the type of guy who puts his phone down and like sits in the middle of his living room in the silence and closes his eyes and just explores your thought processes? Are you that guy?
Here, I have I have a unique perspective on this. So I have a foreign phone. My U.S. number is a primary number. Then I have a Mexican number on it. And then a lot of times, like unless you want to sign a contract, which I don't, you just log into your Telmex or your Telcel account and you can just re-up it for like 500 pesos. It's called the Plan Amigo. So a lot of times I don't even re-up my Mexican number because when I leave the house, like everything's on Wi-Fi in my house. But once I go outside, I don't want to get notifications. I don't want to get messages. If I'm meeting someone there, then we can do luckily in Mexico, like all of your WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, all your social media apps are free on the data plan. So I can still like communicate with people through WhatsApp, which is primarily what people use here. But when I leave the house, the phone, it's on me physically, but I'm not glued to the phone. I don't even think about it. I really enjoy going into the analog world and then again taking in the full experience of this human experience, which a lot of people they're getting sucked up into the ether like the fat people on the beginning scene of Wall-E, just a bunch of fucking blobs. And the way I view food, remember the way I view food is it's energy. So they're just getting massive energy intakes, sitting there watching it physically expand their frame, and they're just taking in pixels and it's shaping their entire reality. Like, I don't want to live that way. So I don't watch a lot of other content, but I have noticed guys from shows I've gone on that have popped in the comments, from guys that have DM'd me, from guys even from meetups, like, hey, I saw you in so-and-so show, and then I'm part of this group, and you happen to be invited, so now you're here. Yeah, a lot of guys have some work to do. Let's just say that. Or and really, a lot of times it's lack of they don't know who they are yet or how they need to show up in the world. They haven't created that internal operating system, and a lot of times there's a lot of social issues too. There's a lot of social skills that haven't been properly developed with a lot of those types of people. So I'll just say that I'm not going to insult anyone else's audience or my own audience, but yes, I do have two eyes that I have connected to a brain. I say that often on this channel, and when I meet people face to face, like a lot of them fall in very similar categories in areas that are.
Oh, I was just asking if you meditate. I didn't even know.
Oh, dude, I meditate all the time.
That's what I did. I did that for the first time today, where I just threw my phone on the table and I walked into the other room, turned it on silent, walked into the living room, sat down right in the middle of the living room, like in the middle of stretching, because I'm fucking ridiculous right now, and for like 30 minutes, I think I was napping, sitting up, and I was just thinking about shit. And it's something that I don't do. I'm constantly connected to my phone, constantly, all the time.
I meditate a lot upon or entering or leaving a sleep state, because a lot of times I'm kind of wired, so I have a hard time falling asleep a lot of time. But I've learned how to deal with that over the years. So I have a nightly routine where I start to
Wind
kind
down.
of unwind. Like there's a reason, like I do the spliff and I play guitar. Guitar gets all the emotional energy out of me. Like have one of my girls come over, you know, bang her, like that gives you all the endorphins and all the feel good hormones. Like a lot of times guys too, like to be honest, like someone in Rich's group asked this the other day. He's like, well, I'm losing weight and then I got injured, so I don't know what to do. Like I can do cardio, but it has to be low impact. I'm like, dude, just bang more chicks. Like there are so many benefits physically to doing that. And a lot of guys, you know, they're like, oh, I'm going to swear off girls, or, you know, do whatever you want to do, go monk mode, do whatever, what works best for you. But when you start to develop, or a lot of guys don't like the dating topics, but like when you get that part of your life down, it does something to you physically. So it's a fantastic, it's a powerful exchange of energy. So it brings love into your life. It brings all of those feel good hormones that like you don't get sick, you sleep a lot better, your skin gets better, like everything's better if you're able to figure out how to do that in your life. So I'll do that, eat my one meal a day, and then kind of slowly just, but from that first activity, like when I'm done with work, I start to unwind, and then I get in like a deep meditative state, which eventually just segues you into the sleep state. I'm a lucid dreamer. I can astral project if I want to. These are things that I didn't develop. These were things that happened to me involuntarily since I was really young, and they used to scare the fuck out of me. So I'm like, all right, I should probably figure out what these things are and just realize that, okay, when you enter a sleep state, you're just entering a different frequency. And then coming out of the sleep state, I'm in a mild meditative state too, to kind of mentally map out the day and then just fucking get up and go at it. So yeah. Yep. Do you even meditate, bro? Yeah.
Okay. Short answer.
Cool. Yep.
I should probably go short answer or long answer.
Yeah.
Give me the short answer, the quick one.
When I go on Rich's show, he'll tell me like Jared, can you comment on this? And before, like, you know, I'd talk over people on his show, and a lot of times he'd cut me off. We've kind of got our cadence down now, he and I, because we've been working together for, you know, God, year and a half. But he'll tell me, he's like, all right, do I get to tell a story? Do you want like a 1 minute fucking clip? Do you want 2 to 3 minutes? Do you want 5 minutes? You let me know what I needed to deliver to your audience.
Land the plane, Jaron. Goddamn.
Land
the plane.
Yeah. So Spartan existence, you combine red pill awareness with white pill optimism, whereas a lot of guys are black pilled. Yeah, a lot black pills, like it's pretty much like your red pill aware. Like you understand how the state of the world works, but you develop a nihilistic view of it. So it's like, oh, fuck women, you know, like that's where you get your incels, which are involuntary celibates, or guys that just kind of check out, like, oh, women are all fucking trash, they're all banging the chads, they're all whores, I'm just not gonna date, and then they're miserable. Because you can be Sigma all you want, but you do need human connection. And we're all aware of the psychological experiments, the fucking horribly unethical, where they take newborn babies, didn't give them contact, and they died. I don't know how that got signed off by an ethics committee, but okay, whatever. Let's see it.
Don't even get me started.
Jaron, how many calories in your one meal a day? So I construct my meals. Protein always gets hit first. That's usually like 800 to 1,000 calories. I try to minimize the fat content there, and then you hit your protein first, and then you add in the fat. So like avocado sauces or coconut oils, or like I like a lot of like nuts or things like that for my fat sources. Build that in, and then usually I'll end up like 1,500. I like to land between 1,700 to 2,200. So I like some kind of, like, if I get a sweet tooth or a snacky tooth, I'll do like a healthy alternative for that. And again, I've covered that quite a bit on my channel. So if you want to dig more into that, I've got a Fat to Fit playlist. That's where you get that information, or at Instagram at Jaron Scott. I've got some featured stories that show you like exactly how I construct my meals and how to break that down from a macro standpoint. And then I've got some recipes on there too. Monk mode Nick G. Monk mode is worth it when you need to focus on a goal, like I did. Mine was lose weight, and I lost around 14 kilograms or 30
I agree
pounds.
with that.
And now starting to date again and getting way more girls. Now, I agree with that too. Like if it's something big, make that your concerted focus and just fucking knock it out.
Yeah, it's an underrated process. I think there's not enough guys actually, especially coming into or going out of relationships. I don't think there's enough guys who take advantage of that process. Just kind of dialing yourself in. That's extremely important.
All right, let's see. We got one more comment. Spartan existence. Sigma males are different from lone wolves. Jaron, have you read the book of 5 Rings? No, I haven't, but I will open my Audible account and buy it now because I have so many fucking credits that I made a rule that I will just buy books that are recommended to me because I'm always pumping something in my ears. So yep, I will definitely get around to it. Thank you for the recommendation there. Steve, do you have anything to add on that? Are you familiar with that at all?
Nope.
All right, cool. So Head back to the article again. We're gonna bunch some of these. We touched on this one the other day, emotional intelligence. So go back; it was a couple streams ago. Look on my channel, the Lost Boys playlist. We have all of our episodes, the longer form, and then there's a Lost Boys clips playlist. I might pull that out at some point, but that's where you can find that. Yeah, a lot of the stuff's kind of like no shit, and a lot of this does kind of overlap with the alpha thing. I know that was going to be originally one of the core elements of this conversation. We've deviated a bit, but like alpha versus sigma, a lot of those traits are overlapping. It looks like there's more of that introversion or that introverted
Yeah, it's
type
mostly
dynamic
just
or element.
that stuff, and the
Introverted
high value
alpha.
man thing too. It's kind of the same fucking thing. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to say it's the same thing entirely, but there's so many traits that overlap that you could be any. I mean, I guess the high value man side, you can be either alpha or beta, or I'm sorry, alpha or sigma or whatever the fuck you want to be at the end of the day.
Yeah, and really the main point of this conversation is, guys, don't squeeze yourself into a box. So like we are tackling this topic from different angles. To be honest, I want to get some content for like shorts and reels and clips and shit like that. I'm trying to figure out those workflows. So that's why we're doing these longer form topics. I naturally like to look at things from a 360 panoramic view and then just kind of dial in the details or just come like to some very concise, clear core understanding of the issue. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be an expert on everything. So
There's not one best here. That's the point. Like,
Yeah.
we're not telling you to be one way or another. You be whoever the hell you're going to be. We're just trying to unpack and get you, like, trying to understand who you are better as a human.
Yep. Trying to get you educated, son. I think I stole that from Joe Rogan, but he's highly self-motivated and driven. I listen to a lot of radio and podcasts, so like these things kind of start to come through. I realize a lot of stuff I say. I'm like, I was a huge Adam Carolla fan in the '90s. Always listened to Loveline every night religiously. And I realize I think a lot of my viewpoints come from that because being a Lost Boy in the '90s before the fucking internet, you listen to terrestrial radio and there's like Tom Likas and Adam Carolla. And then if you're on the East Coast, you had Howard Stern. We didn't get that on the West Coast where I grew up. So that's where you get your information, folks. Now, you can, with YouTube, God, you have unlimited access to content. You can really dial down or tune into whoever you want and tune out whenever you want to. Back in the day, it was not like that. So he's successful. He shies away from commitment. I did want to bring this up earlier. I think even when Jesse was still on the panel, he mentioned something about commitment. In terms of your external relationships with people, I've noticed in my life that I go through periods where I like to be really, ooh, it looks like we're going to get a thunderstorm tonight. Fuck yeah. So if my computer goes out, they don't ground a lot of their electric grid systems here properly in Mexico. So sometimes it'll go out. I've got an external battery here, so I should be good, but just FYI, folks. But Jesse mentioned the commitment thing, and I've noticed there's periods in my life where like it's really just me, myself, and I don't really have a lot of external relationships, and there's other periods where I really focus on creating new relationships. And in general, this might be more of a product of my upbringing. And Steve, I think you have an element maybe of this too, to where you can embrace a new relationship, but also if someone crosses the line, you can just mentally delete them and cut them off too. Talking more about like the darker sides of their personality, you're like, I've installed that process. I think it's something I did as a kid, due to traumatic stuff where you can just like, it's rather than experiencing a full loss. Yeah. You just let it go. Like you just literally delete
I don't
them.
have
They don't
time to
exist.
fucking grieve. Like,
I'm gonna go crack on some lights real quick and unplug some expensive stuff, and I'll be right back. Can you carry it for a minute?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So he shies away from commitment. Let's see. Sigma male is emotionally astute, often emotionally available. This doesn't mean he's looking for commitment. Yeah. So Sigmas typically are more about their friend group and the people. Once you get into the friend group, it's kind of like, you ever been such good friends with somebody that you spend multiple hours a day every single day with those people, and you don't like you don't, there's like, doesn't matter the repercussions, they're just your people. That's kind of what they're talking about. Like, it's really hard to get into the group, but once you're in the group, you're in your family, La Familia. And that's so this is really, really interesting. The Sigma male may keep things casual because he values his space and freedom. So before I got into this relationship that I'm in now, was this guy. I spent multiple years just being, kind of casual. I traveled a lot, so I didn't really want to have to commit to somebody and then run off to another location for 3 or 4 months at a time. It's pretty what's the word? It was it you try not to have commitments that occupy your headspace too much, just because you're kind of focused on a mission. At the time, I was selling construction services around the country. Jaron, I'm on number 12. I don't know if you heard me again.
All right, cool. I'm readjusting my view. I need to get a better camera set up. It's too light sensitive. I want to. Well, there's a lightning storm rolling in, and they're usually pretty fucking cool here. And a lot of times there's like what are they, like the lightning towers in the buildings? There's one across here, so I've set up the camera a few times in like the time lapse, the slow mode to try to catch it right on. And I'm kind of a nerd. I might do that tonight too. It's quite fun, but yeah, I need to get better camera and lighting set up so you can see the contrast. But yeah, there's some bolts of lightning streaking across the sky, and I'm a dork, like I said, for the natural world. I like to experience it, and it's full degree. Cool. So yeah, lightning storms are fun too. Sunset chaser, and yeah, there we go. Now they're coming. Now it's coming in.
That's funny. But yeah, I was just talking about how the Sigma male may keep things casual because he values space and freedom, which is actually a really interesting point, because I think this is across the board. I mean, I really think that if a guy's kind of on a mission and he's not, like, it just feels like he doesn't have time to put
himself in a box.
Yeah, work a shit partner or put himself in a box.
Oh yeah.
That he can. He just keeps things. He kind of just dismisses the seriousness in relationships because he kind of values it like he's trying to do something. If that makes any sense, I'm trying to unpack it the right way.
And that's not to say that you don't value other people. A lot of times, like in the red pill space, when I go on shows and I talk about like MLTRs, which are multiple long-term relationships, or spinning plates, or having a rotation, maintaining a roster, any of these terms, it's all kind of the same thing, more or less. You'll get girls in there, or you'll get like really weird, like socially off type guys, like, oh, so you're just using people as objects? Like, no, I never fucking do that. But guess what? There's a lot of girls that have a lot of shit going on in their life, and they don't want a full-term monogamous boyfriend either. Like they've got their family commitments, they've got their social commitments, they've got their career commitments, they've got whatever's going on in their life. Then you're just like a nice little distraction for them. So the guys, like, not everyone on this planet is wired the same. This whole show has been about like how Sigma males might be wired a little differently from normal people. Well, girls fall into the same camp. So that doesn't mean that you have to deject or devalue people or use them as objects. Just be very clear from the get-go. And I never mislead chicks or anything. They always know. They know what I'm about before they get involved with me, and they usually dig it. They enjoy the ride, and then they stick around, or they're on to other areas in their life that they want to develop, and it is what it is. And you bid them farewell, and you wish them the best of luck. And if they come back, great. And if not, just be happy you had the experience. That's kind of the way I look at relationships. But you'll get girls that use the same shaming tactics, like, oh, you're a commitment phobe, or I like this one, you need to grow up. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been growing up for a while. I grew up when I was a kid. I got put in a very fun position from a very young age to where I had to grow up pretty fast. So yeah, no, I'm very well aware of who I am and what I'm up to. And like, sweetie, by the way, you're 35 and unmarried, and you look like you age like fucking sour milk. Let's unpack what you've got going on. So don't fall into those shame tactics or anything, guys. Like for example, like Steve, the longest time you had a semi-transient lifestyle. I did too. Okay, well, when I'm in a new city every week, in a new country every month for 7 months, you're not going to create those social connections or those deep relationships, but you're going to meet cool people and have awesome experiences with them.
Yeah, you're just not gonna. It's not even on your radar. And like, I don't want to deflect. Like, if some girl told me I had commitment issues, okay, fine, fuck off. Yeah. Like, I don't really care. Okay.
You're here, so like you
like my commitment issues, apparently, right? But yeah, you just when you're living your life in that way, you don't really think about it. Like, I never. Wasn't like, oh, I need to go get an apartment so I can get a girlfriend because I'm so lonely. No, I never really fucking thought about it. But I've also never really had a problem in this area. So we can sit here and talk about that all we want, but it's different for us. It's always been different for us, and that's kind of why we're here.
Yeah, guys, just do cool shit and be up to interesting things, and the right people you don't even really have to look for them. They'll just kind of show up in your life, and you can bring them along for the ride, or you can decide to leave them behind. But that's entirely up to you how that looks like from like a tactical standpoint. Women time equals recreational time. I do agree. Yeah, like for me, like I said, I sell women like watch my online dating videos. I've got a playlist on my channel to where like I actually break down the structure. But yeah, for me, it's like it's kind of pleasure time. You know, at the end of the day, I like to, you know, it's like I tell girls all the time. Actually, I do objectify them, which women in Spanish love being objectified. Like, it's a very we mentioned the Mexican cuisine earlier, so I always tell them like, oh yeah, come on over, I'll cook dinner, and then I'll have you for dessert. And they're just like they know what they're getting into. Like, hey, bring your PJs in case you want to stay the night. That's to build comfort. So once you get all that down, then for me, like I just sell the experience. Like, okay, here's a guy who gets it. He's not going to be fucking weird. He's not going to blow up my phone. He's got shit going on, and I'm not going to be his primary focus, and that's attractive to them. But also for me, it's the same thing. Like most of my day, I don't think about women at all, but once the camera goes off, once the stream gets cut, you know, about an hour or so, you know, I'll have a chick on the way, and I'll just be completely loose, you know, let myself go and just kind of relax and enjoy her feminine presence. And yes, it is recreational time. So let's see. I can't find a woman who
Doesn't try
can't.
hard for my commitment.
Oh, there we go.
Same guy who said his
the words
diet
fucked up
shit,
there, yeah.
and he has fucking diet guilt. Says that women
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't find a woman who doesn't try hard for my commitment.
Maybe you need to level up women because you would do whatever
Yeah.
you needed to do to get that level up. I'm just saying, like, all due respect. If you've got diet guilt and chicks are fucking chasing you down, you got fucking weird issues, bro. And like that's not a problem. Like we all have weird issues, but you like need to commit to those weird issues and figuring them the fuck out because that's the oddest
Yeah.
combination of shit I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, we unpacked that a bit on our last Fat to Fit stream in terms of changing that identity
Yeah.
or killing the inner fat kid versus feeding the inner fat kid. It's likely something like that because I got to that point too.
Yeah.
I always use the term my game gets ahead of me. So I got to the point where all of a sudden chicks weren't flaking on dates and they were enthusiastic to show up and they'd show up and they're ready to go and they didn't want the coffee date, they didn't want the drinks, they were cool with going right to the beach and then right to the house. And but your internal framework is still kind of off. Like you still have that former fat kid syndrome to where, oh, you know, I got to take her to, I've met guys that I've met in real life too. Oh, we meet some girls at a club and I tell my buddy, like within 40 minutes, hey man, they're ready to pull. Oh man, it's too early. Oh, we got to take them to 3 different spots. Or, oh, the 7-hour rule. I'm like, no, dude, these girls ready to fuck right now. It's like 10 p.m.
If somebody hands you a
I
credit
don't
card,
want to
quit
go.
fucking selling and close the deal.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, I don't want to go home for the night. This happened to me recently in California. I'm just like, shit, I haven't gamed with this buddy in like 10 years. And like, he's still using the old model and you don't have to do that anymore. So it's kind of the same thing with updating the like former fat kid type framework. So we broke that down the Fat to Fit podcast a few days ago. And yeah, like you do get to the point, guys, when you level up in like in the woman area of your life to where literally like not to say like be a dick or be an asshole or again don't be a complete douche to them, but when they're not your priority they just kind of show up and then they fall in love really fast. And you got to be careful with that too, because for the guy who called me pink pill earlier, like I'm a human being, like I don't want to break some girl's heart or lead her on or like fill her head with a fantasy that's never going to happen. That's just kind of a fucked up thing to do to anyone, girl or guy. So
means you fucking sell chicks. You're this fake reality and then just bail on them or some shit.
Well, that's why, like in the red pill space, they talked a while ago when it was trending the Me Too thing. Oh, you don't want to get Me Too'd, or oh, you don't want to get a false forced intimacy allegation. That's a trigger word for YouTube, so you can't use a real word, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Those things don't, or like, oh, I don't want a girl to accuse me of sexual harassment at work because I smiled at her or complimented her. Those things don't happen once you get to the point where women in your life like start falling in love with you pretty quick. Those other issues don't happen. If you don't lie to them, you don't mislead them. If you don't treat them like shit, then yeah, those things don't happen. That happens when they regret having.
I don't think I've ever been accused of that. I mean,
no, I never have, and I never will. Yeah. It's just not part of my internal operating system. Cole, casual relationships can be great as long as everyone is open and honest about their feelings and expectations. A lot of people on both sides will lie and expect the other person to change. Yeah, don't ever enter your relationships from a point of deceit. That's always going to turn into a disaster.
That's so 90s.
Yeah, like and for guys that like you're not comfortable in your own skin yet, you know, that might be difficult. You might have the urge to, you know, first date lay out a resume or try to exaggerate who you are or what you're about, but really like there's not a lot of competition these days as long as you're just doing something and Hud's mentioned it the other day. You're passionate about it, or you're kind of on your purpose, or at least heading in that direction. If you don't have it clearly defined, people can pick up on that. And they're going to want to be a part of what you're doing, and that manifests in the physical world in terms of the feminine energy coming into your masculine energy, and literally, like the way we're shaped, like one receives energy, the other penetrates energy. Like it's not hard to see once you start to look at the world in terms of reality. So there's no need for deceit or anything in relationships. What a low effort response, Esteban. I don't know what
I'll
that's
pick up a
in reference
microphone
to.
and get on stream if you want a high effort response.
Yeah, I've been inviting people to come up here all night. We've had a couple come up, but again, we're still kind of new getting out the gate. So I understand we haven't hit critical mass in terms of, getting massive reach yet. I'll have to figure out the YouTube algorithms and do that. But I think that clears out a lot of the chat responses, that at least gets us up to date. So we can cruise through a couple more of these. Again, I'm going to kind of combine these. So he's somewhat mysterious. Yeah, he's somewhat mysterious. He's a great listener. He's capable of leadership, but doesn't seek it out. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that one. I don't think, well, yeah, maybe. Like he doesn't give a fuck. He just kind of does his own thing and people either follow or they get out of the way. I can see that. He values equality. I would update that with like justice or doing what's right. Equality, that term's been kind of bastardized by the left in recent years to mean not what it actually means. What they refer to as equity of outcome rather than equality of opportunity. So gotta be careful there. All these, dude, all these articles. Well, yeah, once we get towards the end, where I'm like, it was written by AI or it was written by like a chick or a leftist.
I've read this. I think I've read this article before, actually, and
probably, yeah.
I just never really pay attention to who it's by. Like I don't ever look at the author.
Well, it's more like you hear a term, you're like, oh, okay, I've been hearing that go around lately, and you Google it and you look at like like your top 10 page rank results, and then you're like, oh, okay. And I do the bullet list articles too, just because I want an outline. I just want to have like a basic idea of, okay, what does this mean and what does it not mean? And then I can go ahead, have just a very not so clearly defined framework in my head, and then experience my own reality and kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together myself. Somewhat mysterious. I can see that. One that's naturally introverted usually falls more into being mysterious. Charming. Okay, that's an interesting one. I like to be charming around people. And that just creates a nice positive energy exchange. So that's something when I want to flip that switch, and Steve, I know you can too, that, you can be quite charming. And I also have that ability, when I choose to do so.
I wouldn't believe that, would you?
Yeah, right. Are you calling me not charming? I'm some big
no, wouldn't believe that I'm a charming human being sometimes.
No, dude, I've seen you charm chicks before. That's quality. Adapts easily. I think that's a big one. And then self-awareness. Those two can probably go hand in hand. So adapts easily. Yeah. Especially like guys, if you have that adventure or wanderlust type gene, obviously that you have to adapt I talk about all the time. I do the Mexico topics or living abroad or expatriate topics. When you move abroad, it is a process. And you again, like Steve mentioned, it's a muscle you build. You learn how to put together that framework to like how you adapt to a new culture or a new city or a new place or a new social network or a new job opportunity, how to just in general be adaptable. And I think, again, this overlaps a lot with like the definition of an alpha male or high quality male. Anything to add there you disagree with, or pretty straightforward?
No comment.
Self-aware. We've covered this a lot on this channel. Again, guys, go to that Lost Boys playlist.
I don't even know what
channel.
number you're on. I just kept reading. What number are you on?
I'm on 19. I'm just cruising through. I think there's like 23 or something. Just wrap it up. Keeps his inner circle small. We mentioned about like how guys can be like lean more towards the lone wolf type label when they use these terms like Sigma male. And again, I'm not saying there's credence to any one or another. I'm just presenting this. To be honest, it's a trending keyword. I'm like, okay, let's opine on the topic and see what the space is saying about it. Keeps his inner circle small. I definitely fall into that camp. I don't like to maintain a lot of relationships. I'd rather have quality of relationships over quantity of relationships. But I've got plenty of people in my social network to where when I seldom go out, but when I go out, all the guys that are there, we catch up. I haven't seen them in 2 or 3 months, and we just kind of check in on each other's lives. But it's not like Steve and I who talk every day, or my brothers and I who talk every day, or my sister and I who talk every day, or my main girls and I who most of the time, we'll at least say something like a one-liner, share a meme, once a day, or at least more frequently than other people. But yeah, I'd say like my inner circle is actually quite small.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's. I mean, we. What's crazy is we could have probably kept this to a 10-minute video because we
Yep.
pretty much covered it in the first 10 minutes of this entire of the entire stream.
Cool. That's what clips are for. So we'll definitely do that. And yeah, that
Right.
might not be a bad idea. Doing shorter streams, like doing like bite-sized nuggets of knowledge to where like 10 minutes or less and just fucking get to
Whatever
the
we want
point.
to do,
That
we'll figure it
those
out.
do better too. We'll figure it out. Yeah, guys, like I mentioned, for those of you who've been following me for a while, we're trying a bunch of new things out here because I need to figure out the YouTube game and get the secret sauce down. And if you are new to the channel and haven't followed me yet, well, you can do that on Instagram at Jaron Scott for anything you might need from me personally, including the top 10% group. I'll pitch that here in a few minutes as we wrap up the show. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Like the video, leave any comments down below, all that stuff. Make sure you ring the notification bell and enable all notifications. And then, of course, share with your friends. That's one that people often forget about. So let's see. Authentic. Yeah, I think that's one area a lot of guys lack is authenticity. And then another one here says, yeah, we kind of touched on that as far as like developing certain angles or dimensions of your personality and giving yourself permission to put yourself out there. That's what authenticity is. People can see through that when you haven't done that. So if that's something that's new to you or foreign to you, you might want to start looking in that direction. Like, hey, how do I be authentic? How do I know who I am and be okay sharing certain parts of myself with certain people? And then another one is he's not aggressive. I think that's could be me. Like I'm aggressive in the sense that like when I want something, I fucking want it and I go and get it. But like you won't ever see me beating my chest or telling people to fuck off, in a bar or something like that. So I don't know what they refer to in that comment there that like, he's not aggressive.
I think they're talking about like verbally or even physically aggressive because they
Don't
can
be a
talk
boisterous douche.
Well, it's not one of the cardinal things about one of the cardinal traits that I see that's not here is that they're great salesmen.
Mhm.
They're absolutely great salesmen. You can sell yourself out of any situation. They're not going to fight you because they understand the repercussions. They're thoughtful people. Like that's the way that I interpret that is that they might be authentic and they can talk them. I don't know why I said authentic. They can talk the situation down and they are great salesmen. That's all.
I've always been able to do that too. Even from a young kid, whenever I got in trouble in school, I always knew that I'd work my way out of it. Troubles with the law, keep your fucking mouth shut. Everything you say can and will be used against you. They read you those rights for a reason. Take them into account. Shut your fucking mouth. Get a lawyer. Yeah, but yeah, you can get yourself in and out of situations at your own whim or will once you kind of understand who you are and how you show up in the world. And again, we talked earlier about like even general public or dealing with normal people. Well, yeah, maybe they're not on your radar. Maybe you don't want to deal with normal people, but guess what? That's the majority of the population. Learn how to deal with them, and that'll make your life a lot easier when stupid shit comes up.
Sure.
Are
you ready to?
Open-minded is the last one, and then yeah, we can wrap it up. I mean, guys, if you're following these topics, if you're still on here 2.5, almost 3 hours later, then you're probably pretty open-minded because Steve and I can get a bit ethereal with things, and then we try to bring it back on and land it before we wrap up the show. But
half of this, I was like, "What the fuck? Where the fuck did this conversation go?"
I think we more or less unpacked it. If you have anything else to add, that'd be fantastic. Or if not, then great. I'll wrap it up because. Oh, I've got a thunderhead sitting right over me, and it's been hot as fuck today, and they're not moving. And you can, when you feel your natural universe, you can feel the static in the air. So yeah, I'm gonna have a show here in a minute. Quite excited.
Awesome.
Let's see if it hits one of these fucking buildings. Hopefully not me.
What's up, QB?
Yeah, what's up? Oh, hey, I haven't seen you around a bit. Hey, Kiwi Passport Flexing, what is up? I think I reached out to you at one point. Hit me up on Instagram at Jaron Scott. It's the easiest way, and like let's do a collab together. If that's what I'm thinking of, that you're living abroad and crushing it too. And I do want to explore some more of those topics on my channel because to be honest, like I said at the top of the show, the Sigma male topic, that's kind of a newer topic. When I was going through my own like initial phases of my personal transformation or whatever you want to call it, that wasn't really a trending topic. So I wasn't too familiar with like the Sigma male type concept. But I know it's trending, and we talk about adjacent issues and like the men's development or whatever the hell you want to call it space, then I figured, maybe we should touch on it. But But yeah, definitely want to cover more of kind of what I'm going through now in terms of like, the location independence, financial independence, doing like the 5 flag type model, completely untethering yourself from the US and North America bullshit culture and all that stuff. So that's what I'm actively working on now. And of course, getting the business stuff going, some more finance stuff, investment stuff. But these are topics that a lot of guys don't quite get yet, or maybe there's some confusion like, am I alpha, am I beta, or am I sigma? Well, if you're losing sleep over that, then there's other issues that you need to address. Like you are whatever you are, and then don't worry about the definitions that some fucking AI chatbot author put out there for you.
Nobody here is going to call you a pussy because you think you have beta
Okay,
traits.
nice.
It is what it is, bud.
Yeah, your tangents are interesting too. Oh, thanks. Like I try to work on not getting tangential, but that's the way my brain works. So we'll have a core topic and then there's other threads that branch out from it. But as long as you bring it home, then I think it gives it a little more, using a weed term, makes it full spectrum or like full experience. So I'm glad you dig it. And like I say too, guys, like if you want examples, like guys ask me all the time, how do I be more interesting on dates, or how do I not run out of shit to talk about? Well, we're doing that in front of you. Like I know for a lot of guys, I was on radio in high school, and I remember there was a class, and then they'd take like the top performers and actually put them on the local radio station. So I did the class first, and they'd be like, "Oh, Jaron, you have to talk about lettuce for 15 minutes," and it was so fucking hard for people to do that. I'm like, dude, I can talk about lettuce for 3 hours. Let me fucking roll. And that's how you do that. You have the core topic, and you can branch out from that and share life experiences or tangents, but just make sure you break it home. Or bring it home.
I thought you had ADHD, but I guess you just have a skill that I don't have.
I'm probably ADHD too. Like again, another one of those labels that they labeled me that as a kid. I don't really care. They labeled me, I think, like bipolar type 2 or some shit like that. But when you're in that toxic culture, these are people that have replaced religion with psychology. We can get into that. That's a full another 3-hour debate or discussion. But a lot of people have replaced with religion or just like wisdom, knowledge, ancient, like whatever that is, 10,000 years of oral tradition of guys who have fucked up everything you can think about possibly fucking up. And they're like, hey, son, make sure you don't do this. And then they collect it and whatever that is to you. But a lot of times, yeah, you got a little tangential. I can't bring it back. But that's what a lot of that is like just passing on knowledge and then sharing a breadth or depth of experience. So yeah, I can get a bit tangential and storytelling at time, but that's the way humans exchange information. And oh yeah, I remember my main point. Going back to like the date type topics, like if you want to be interesting, you want to be dynamic, learn how to experience your experiences in real time as you were going through the experience, and then tell the story as you're living it, and that makes it a lot easier for recall. Again, if you want to be more interesting, I've covered that on the channel before, but we're going a bit long. Steve, you got anything else to wrap it up with, or think we
No, I'm good.
Kind of, I don't want to say we hammered it on the head, but we took a broader view, dialed it down, brought it back out. So guys, if there's anything else, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If there's a specific thing that you guys want to talk about more, let us know, because we do spend a substantial amount of time actually like reading on this stuff and like looking it up and trying to apply it to our lives before we even talk about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you want to keep the conversation going, again, be sure leave anything down in the comments below. Like the video if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Ring the notification bell, enable all notifications, and share with any friends or recommend it to anyone. Word of mouth is a fantastic way of sharing knowledge with people too. And then before I wrap it up, guys, if you really want to take the conversation to a next level, we talk about this stuff all the time on our private calls, our Q&As, our Zoom calls, our in-person meetups. That is the top 10% group. That is an extension of Rich Cooper's top 1% group at a more accessible price point for guys that aren't like, $1 million a year entrepreneurs yet. We did the $997 US lifetime membership price point. That's to get you into the top 10%. And that's whatever quantifiable metric you're looking at in your life. You want to be top 10% of being in shape, top 10% of income, top 10% of business performers, top 10%, however you quantify that, and like your dating relationship part of your life. Well, that's precisely why we open this group against the more accessible price point of $997. That is a lifetime membership pricing. So once you are in, you are in. If at some point you want to graduate to the higher level groups, we have discounts on all of our coaching services and digital products, premium products. And then if you do the $997 lifetime membership and want to upgrade to the top 1% at some point, we can actually roll that forward for your first year of dues. So this is really, a lot of guys reached out like, hey man, I'm not an entrepreneur yet, or I'm not quite crushing it in life yet, but I want to take the next step. What do I do? we created that group precisely for you. We talk about these types of topics and go a lot deeper in the subject. We apply it to you specifically. And then for guys that they ask me all the time too, like, hey, where do I find a tribe of like-minded men? Where do I find cool guys to hang out with that aren't, a bunch of weirdos? Or where can I be myself around other guys that, it's not going to impact my job or my relationship? Because to be honest, if you're still plugged in, then that is the world you live in. Well, this is precisely the group for you. So DM me on Instagram at Jaron Scott. If you need more information on that, in the description down below this video, there's a link to the paywall there if you just want to go right to it. If you need help funding wise, guys, reach out to me recently asking for that. I believe PayPal does have a PayPal credit option, and it's pretty easy to get. I used that years ago. We haven't talked about finances for a while on this channel, but personally, I don't carry any debt at all, so I don't use credit. I have it, but I don't use it. So, but if you're not quite there yet, that's cool. We're all at different phases of our development, different verticals of our lives. PayPal does have a PayPal credit option, and that is how you sign up for that group. And again, more information or questions or comments about that, or if you want to pop on a show or just need anything from me at all, you can find me on Instagram at Jaron Scott. Steve, where can people find you? What are you up to? Or just peace?
Esteban the Gold. Esteban the Bold on IG. That's it.
Yeah, we've been going for a while. I'm starting to slur my speech too. Probably need to unwind my.
Esteban the Gold. That's what it should have been. That was divine.
I'm gonna watch the storm and relax and fucking chill. It's been a productive day, and those are the kind of days I like. String enough of those together, guys, and you'll start putting together a life you dig pretty quickly there. So, and again, if you want more information on how to do that, top 10% group, Instagram at Jaron Scott. That being said, guys, we want to thank y'all for stopping on by. If you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave any comments down below, ring the notification bell, enable all notifications, and share this with any friends or family who you think might get value to this content. That being said, we want to thank you all for stopping on by, and until next time, we shall bid everyone farewell.